All right. What is up, YouTube? What is going on, fellow fantasy people? And of course, what is up, the catch fam? You guys already know what time it is, man. Week 10 is going to be upon us before we know we've got a little bit of week 9 left, you guys. So tonight we know Steelers and Bears are going to face one another. Should be, I think this is going to actually be a decent game. I mean, are these the two best teams in the league? No, but sometimes that makes for an interesting matchup. So definitely excited to see how this matchup turns out, man. And I know this is going to impact a lot of us. I mean, David Montgomery / Khalil Herbert have an interesting situation. We'll get into that in today's stream. Deontay Johnson, Najee Harris, there are big names in this game, right? Darnell Mooney, maybe Cole Kmet, Pat Fearmouth. So, yeah, definitely some big names to get to in tonight's game. So, don't want to disregard week 9 for those of you who are still uh, dependent on this football game tonight. So please let me know if you guys have questions surrounding tonight's game. But other than that, man, let's just hop into week 10. I figured why not? Let's go ahead and get things going, right? I mean, week 10 is going to be interesting. So, guys, smash that like button on your way in, man. If you're new to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button down below, and let's hop into it, man. Okay, so yeah, you guys might be wondering, a little bit of an earlier stream today. I just wanted to see how this would go, how you guys would respond to this. So a little bit earlier here for Monday, and then we can all hop off and enjoy the Monday Night Football game. So let's see what we're getting into on the day. KB, Kamara basically split carries this week. Yeah, Mark Ingram saw a lot of involvement within that game, which was quite interesting. And I mean, the interesting thing on top of that is with Mark Ingram, if he does not, or if he could find the end zone, then he'd be seeing some very solid stat lines. These last two games, right? He has at least 50 yards from scrimmage. I mean, I talked about him in our waiver wire ad video that we did earlier in the day, the stream that we did earlier in the day. So if you guys do need help with the waiver wires, of course, I'm happy to answer those questions in this stream. But if you guys want some further breakdown of what to expect on the waiver wire in week 10, make sure you guys check out that stream from earlier today as well. But I know it's a little bit worrisome. The good news surrounding Alvin Kamara, of course, is going to be that Taysom Hill didn't really take away a lot of his value. So, I mean, that's a positive thing. But yes, Ingram definitely saw a lot of involvement overall. So we want to keep an eye on this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not disregarding that at all. But at the same time, it's looking a little bit more positive in the terms that at least Taysom Hill isn't taking away, a ton of that work as well. All right, KB, what are your thoughts on Diggs? Yeah, I mean, I was very disappointed. I mean, not just in Stephon Diggs, right? I mean, I really liked that matchup going into the week, but just disappointed in the Bills overall here in week 9, which I'm sure all of you guys were. I mean, there really wasn't any positive outcomes for those of you who had Bills players starting in that the weirdest game script we've had all season long versus the Jaguars. So, my thoughts on Diggs is that he's going to be just fine. I still have full faith in Stephon Diggs on the season. I really don't think that there's any reason to panic, right? But this was an awful game. Like there's no doubt about it whatsoever. And this definitely hurt any value and any momentum that Diggs had begun to pick up on the season. So, I mean, on the season, he's still on pace for over 1,000 receiving yards and on pace for about 6 or 7 touchdowns. So I still like where he's at, man. And don't get me wrong, in full PPR, he still had 85 receiving yards. It's still a good stat line. And half PPR, that's not an awful stat line either. So is he going to have these crazy ceilings? Potentially not, right? I mean, we really haven't seen him. His best game on the year would be week 6 versus that awful Tennessee secondary, right? Where he had about 19 to 20 fantasy points, depending on scoring format. So outside of that, he's got the Jets, he's got the Colts, he's got the New Orleans Saints. There's some positive matchups coming up for Stephon Diggs. So I wouldn't panic just yet, but he does look to be a little bit better at the wide receiver 2 or flex position on the year. All right. Sea Dog, I will happily take my L this week. I got DK and Fournette coming back from bye next week. Hunt and Robinson and Kyler are all expected to play. The Avengers are assembling for a playoff push, and I'm so hyped. Yeah, that's good news. I mean, sometimes the important thing is you didn't panic, right? You didn't move away from players that are going to help you down the stretch. You didn't move away from players that are going to help you position yourself into the fantasy playoffs, right? Uh, so I think that this is perfectly fine. The final piece would be a Henry return for fantasy playoffs. It's possible from stuff I'm reading. Yeah, it's definitely possible. But at the same time, it would be good. It would be good. But at the same time, it does concern me to some degree as well. But we'll see, Sea Dog. We'll see. But yeah, I mean, I think the important thing here is he didn't panic and trade any of these players. He didn't panic and drop any of these players, especially. So definitely a positive outlook coming up for you. All right, let's see here. Week 10. Who do we got? What do we got going on here? Ravens, Dolphins is our Thursday night football game. This should be a positive game script for the Ravens. Lamar Jackson had an absolutely phenomenal week here in week 9. So I do like the output there for Lamar Jackson and company. Hollywood Brown should have himself another good game. The Dolphins secondary is not very good at all. I like Devonta Freeman in this matchup, even if Latavius Murray comes back, which would definitely complicate things. But maybe this is the week that we see Rashad Bateman get in the end zone. Maybe not, as he hasn't done it on the season. But Mark Andrews should have a good game. I like the Ravens matchup here on Thursday Night Football. For the Dolphins, Tua should be able to play in this game from what I've read today. He might be a valuable streamer. This Ravens secondary just has not been very good on the season. Minnesota played very well against them yesterday. So keep an eye on that. But outside of that, Myles Gaskin, a decent start. Maybe we can lean on Waddle again, as he had a very nice performance yesterday. But outside of that, really not a lot other than my guy Mike G that we're going to be looking at within that game. Sunday, let's see, we've got the Saints and Titans. That should be an enticing matchup, right? Both these secondaries outside of Marshawn Lattimore playing pretty poorly. A.J. Brown had a decent game, lining up mainly against Jalen Ramsey, so maybe he still has some success versus Lattimore, but I like this game script. The Titans right now, man, look like one of the best teams in the league, man, and they have been pretty good against the run, so we might want to temper expectations for Alvin Kamara, but outside of that, man, I feel pretty good about these matchups overall, especially for the really the Saints run defense has been the star of the show for them. And Adrian Peterson had an okay game, found the end zone. It's probably something we need to talk about today. But yeah, I don't mind this game script overall. I think this will be a relatively competitive game. Dog, my lineup this week was Cousins, Mitchell, Hype, Thielen, Hollywood, Freiermuth, Kirk. Colts defense, awful lineup, and I took a fat L, but I don't care. Hey, man, it's all in perspective, right? I mean, it's okay to lose 2, 3, 4, 5 fantasy games throughout the season, as long as you get a ticket to the ship, man. As long as you can make it into the playoffs, if you strategically take an L or two, like it's okay as long as you're not hurting yourself down the stretch. As I see you saying Hyde, yeah, okay, I read it as Hype, but I was sitting here thinking which player could that be, and Carlos Hyde makes perfect sense. So, yeah, if you position yourself well, that's all that matters, man. Don't beat yourself up, which you're obviously not. But yeah, I think you had the right moves here. Bills and Jets. Bills need a bounce back game, man. I don't want to read into that performance versus Jacksonville whatsoever, man. So I think the Bills are going to have a good day. For the Jets, I really don't know what to expect out of this performance Sunday, so we're gonna have to keep an eye on that. Let's see. We're gonna have Lions and Steelers. That should be a relatively interesting matchup to teams who are not playing phenomenal in the season, but nonetheless, man, the Steelers are technically in the playoff race and technically in the divisional race too. That division's very, very tight. So I think that the Steelers should have a very good day. The line's been very, very bad against the run, so Najee Harris should have a good week here in week 10. Deontay Johnson should have a decent week as well for the Lions. The Steelers have been very good against the run, so it's going to be hard to call that, but I would definitely be looking to probably utilize DeAndre Swift regardless, just due to volume alone. Outside of that, for the Lions, TJ Hawkinson is probably the only other player we can consider starting here in week 10. Let's see, Jags and Colts. Maybe this is going to be a juicy matchup the way the Jaguars played this past weekend, but I doubt it, man. The Colts still in the playoff hunt, man. Technically speaking, if the Titans were to lose enough games, they could take this division, even though they lost to the Titans twice. So the Colts are, I would imagine, are going to stay pretty competitive within this game. Definitely are starting our guys, Jonathan Taylor and maybe even Naheem Hines. This Jaguars run defense is awful, although they were okay yesterday. But once again, we're not going to take this Week 9 matchup versus the Bills into consideration. We're going to look at the stats as a whole. I would definitely lean with Michael Pittman here, as this Jaguars secondary has been very bad. For the Jaguars, whichever running back is starting, you can consider here. But keep in mind, the Colts have been very good against opposing running backs on the season. As in terms of the Jaguars wide receivers, they're a stay away for me, especially with the news that, Trevor Lawrence, I believe, is expected to play or be able to play, but if he's probably not going to be 100%. So we need to monitor that if you guys own players like Marvin Jones or Laviska Shenault. I don't really like them going up against the Colts. So the Colts secondary has been pretty vulnerable. So maybe we'll keep monitoring that throughout the week. We're going to Bucks and Washington, two teams coming back from their bye, right? I think that Tom Brady's just going to have an electric day, man. This Washington secondary has been god awful. I think this is a week where we're going to potentially be starting all the Buccaneers that we possibly can. And I don't want to list them off because it would take 10 minutes, but we can definitely consider all of them here in week 10. In terms of the Washington football team, you can definitely consider our guy Terry McLaurin, but outside of that, man, if Logan Thomas comes back, it's a good matchup. But I'm not crazy about Washington's running backs moving into Week 10. The Buccaneers have been very good against the run, so you can take a swing on Gibson or McKissick and hope that they put together a nice day. But they're probably going to be better suited as flex plays heading into Week 10. Browns and Patriots. This should be an interesting game, actually. The Browns really trying to hang on and take back that division, right? And really stay in the playoff hunt. And the Patriots, if I'm not mistaken, are technically at the bottom of the playoff run as too. So Mac Jones has played better as of late, man, with the Patriots leaning on the run game, with the defense starting to step up, right? He hasn't had as much pressure on himself. So in terms of who I like for the Patriots, I don't quite know, to be honest. Like Hunter Henry, that's probably about the only player who I've got locked in here. I do want to like these Patriots running backs, but on the season, the Browns defense has been very good against opposing running backs, although Joe Mixon had something to say about that yesterday, man. But outside of that game, this Browns unit has been very good against the run. So Damian Harris should be out, right? If Ramondre Stevenson plays, I think due to volume, he's still a play here. But if he doesn't, then Brandon Bolden is going to be basically on his own out there. So we're going to have to keep an eye on that. But I'm really not feeling 100% confident in the Patriots here in Week 10. For the Browns, man, Nick Chubb, a must start, obviously, with what he did this past week. He's just going to continue to be a player that we start every single week. I told you guys, a lot of you guys trying to sell Chubb high or even low after that dud performance in Week 8. Man, does he have a stretch coming up, man, of bad defenses that he's just going to terrorize. So really, really like Chubb, of course. I don't really know if I even need to break that down for you guys, but outside of that, man, I really hope that Jarvis Landry can bounce back. It's a bad matchup. The Patriots secondary has been pretty decent on the season, and we know that Belichick's going to do whatever he can to take away that X factor player. I don't think that they're going to be able to take away Nick Chubb, so I would imagine that Jarvis Landry might have a down day, and that's not what you guys want to hear. I'm sure if you own Jarvis Landry, because he had a pretty down day yesterday versus the Bengals. He had an awful day. So outside of that, man, Peoples-Jones worth a look, but I really don't feel crazy about the Browns offense outside of their run game, of course. Falcons and Cowboys. Yeah, we've got some good games this weekend, man. For the Falcons, man, we're rolling with Cordero Patterson and cheese all day, man. We're not getting off that pick. Our boy Kyle Pitts should have a good day as well. For the Cowboys, as long as Zeke is healthy, we're starting him, man. We're probably starting all the Cowboys. I look for the Cowboys. They have a huge bounce back week and momentum in general. All right. Panthers and Cardinals, man. Ooh, this Panthers team. We're starting Christian McCaffrey no matter what, right, in week 10. But outside of that, man, I don't know how much I like these Panthers versus the Cardinals. We could take a swing on DJ Moore due to volume, but the Panthers are not playing good offensive football right now at all. For the Cardinals, Kyler is expected to play from what I've seen. I'm not 100% sure about DeAndre Hopkins, but this Panthers secondary has been a little bit better as of late with Stephon Gilmore, but they're still not great as a whole. Now, this run defense is really what's good for this squad. So, do we want to set James Conner? I wouldn't set James Conner. He's been on absolute fire. So, all right, let me get back to the chat here. Then we'll keep breaking down overall Oh, I apologize, guys. We got a lot of action in the chat. Good to see everyone coming out today, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button. Let's hop into the chat, then I'll keep breaking down what we should be expecting in week 10. I apologize, guys. All right. Let's see here. Jaden, what's going on, man? I'm winning by 8 points. I have the Steelers, tight end. Pat Fearmouth left, and my opponent has Steelers defense. What do you think? Wow, this is close. This is close, man. You definitely have a shot here. You're kind of relying on Fearmouth finding the end zone. I do think that the Steelers defense will have a decent day, but I think that the Bears are going to come out and be as competitive as possible. So you definitely have a shot here. But if your league is like most leagues, your opponent's going to start off with 10 points. So there's probably going to be a point tonight where you're losing for sure at the start of the game, but just don't lose confidence, man. You definitely have a shot to win this matchup. Dried Ocean, what's going on, man? Always good to see you. Let's see here. I joined right at the worst time. Oh, I'm sorry, man. My Bills are down horrendous. C-Dog, Colts or Ravens defense next week both played awful this week. If you're asking me, man, I'm leaning the Colts here just because they've played better on the season and they've got the Jacksonville Jaguars, right? Trevor Lawrence may not play, but even if he does play, it's still not a bad matchup. The Colts are a fine stream on the week. I would lean with the Colts. The Ravens have been much, much worse on the season. So yeah, C-Dog, for me, it's the Colts hands down. Charlie Dong, what's going on, man? Should I trade D-Hop and Eli Mitchell for Aaron Jones? And my bench wide receivers are T. Higgins, Claypool, Sanders, and Odell. I wouldn't, quite frankly. I would not feel 100% confident in. And I see, let's see, C-Dog asks, who's your running backs? Because trading D-Hop really hurts you. My running backs are Najee and Zeke. If you're asking me, man, lean on Najee and Zeke, and then Mitchell is a great flex play at the moment. So I would hold on to Mitchell. And then I think you need that depth at receiver. I know D-Hop has been not entirely consistent on the season. And I know that he's been disappointing and he's been injured, but I just don't think that you can rely on T. Higgins, Claypool, and Sanders. And I mean, Odell might even be droppable at this point, to be honest with you, even if depending on who signs him, I'm still not fully confident in Odell from a fantasy perspective. I mean, you can get by with Higgins, Claypool, and Sanders, but just having D-Hop down the stretch is going to help you much, much more than having Aaron Jones, right? Because you have two great running backs. And then if Eli Mitchell can continue to play at the pace that he's been playing at, then you've got a third great running back as well. So for me, I would stay away from that, man. Charlie, I don't know. I've been really down on D-Hop this year at the lack of targets. See, I know it's been frustrating, right? But I would stay away from it personally. C-Dog, your wide receivers are awful if you trade them. D-Hop always has a huge game possibility. None of the others do. The others aren't even the best on their own team. Yeah, I would hold on to DeAndre Hopkins like C-Dog is recommending here, right? I just think that down the stretch, it's really going to benefit your team more. I don't necessarily dislike the idea of getting like a three-headed beast there of Ezekiel Elliott, Najee Harris, and Aaron Jones. If you have enough conviction in it, man, I don't want to talk you out of it because, I mean, I think that trio of running backs could do you a lot of good down the stretch as well. Like, sure, T. Higgins and Chase Claypool can get you by, and you can play weak at the wide receiver position. I mean, I do that to some degree personally. So I don't necessarily hate the move, but I think that Mitchell's playing well enough that you can have him as your third running back. And I know that Jeff Wilson's kind of looming around, right? The way Kyle Shanahan deploys these running backs, we never know what's going to happen. So I can understand that as well. But I could argue this either way. So I would be interested where your personal headspace is at, where your personal conviction is at as well, Charlie. Jerry, what's up, everyone? What's going on, Jerry? Always happy to have you here, my guy. Christian, should I trade away Aaron Jones for Saquon? That's an interesting trade right there. Where would you rank Aaron Jones rest of season? I mean, I definitely think he is a top 8 running back, right? But he's definitely hurting without Aaron Rodgers around. So I think he might have 1 or 2 down days, but outside of that, man, or 1 or 2 down weeks. But when A-Rod comes back, which he might be coming back this weekend, right? I think that'll be just fine. So I still view him as like a top 8 guy. Yeah. But I kind of view Saquon when healthy as a top 8 guy as well, top 10 guy for sure. Now, obviously, with Saquon's injuries, he's not going to probably finish as a top 10 back, but when fully healthy, he still plays as a top 10 back. So I love both of these guys. I think we want to look at the respective offenses, though, right? The Packers, when fully healthy, when they have Devontae Adams, right? When they have Aaron Rodgers, they are definitely the better offense in comparison to the Giants. So let's take a look here. Let me see if I can't get pulled up. Let's look at these two guys' remaining schedules on the year. Okay. Let's see here. This is going to be a good factor for you, too. So Aaron Jones down the stretch is going to have Seattle, Minnesota, LA, a bye week, Chicago, Baltimore, and Cleveland. That's not awful, but it's not great. Let's take a look at Barkley as well. All right. Saquon Barkley here. Bye week in week 10, of course, but then Tampa Bay, Philly, Miami, the Chargers, Dallas, and Philly. He's got a much, much, much more favorable stretch. I mean, Tampa Bay is not the best matchup in week 11, but then Philly, Miami, the Chargers, and then Philly again in week 16 is great. Dallas in week 15, they've been very, very good on the run on the year. But at the same time, they just got absolutely torched yesterday. So maybe they're relatively vulnerable. But Saquon might offer you a higher ceiling. Let us know in the chat, guys. Who are you guys higher on? Aaron Jones or Saquon Barkley? Jerry, are the Titans Super Bowl contenders? I believe so. But I just don't know. I mean, they've beaten a lot of good teams this year, so I guess so. Yeah. I mean, it's kind of crazy, right? Now, I do think that the NFC probably holds some of these stronger teams, but the Titans, we got to give them credit, man. They've been phenomenal on the season. They've had some really great primetime matchups where they have absolutely shown up. So, I mean, they're definitely a contender. I'll agree with that, Jerry. Jew, what's going on, man? Always good to see you here. Ron the Goat, yo, took a W in all my leagues yesterday. Let's go. Let's go, Ron. What's up, Catch fam? Let's go, Ron. Good to see you, man. Christian, where would you rank Keenan Allen on the rest of the season? This is a good question as well. Once again, looking at his respective offense, I really like where he's at. He definitely looks to not be, getting as much pressure with Mike Williams kind of trending downwards, which is interesting, right? So yeah, 2 games in a row with at least 16 fantasy points, and now he's going to see Minnesota, Pittsburgh, Denver, Cincinnati, the Giants, Kansas City, and Houston. So a very favorable schedule for the remainder of the season outside of maybe Denver, right? So I like where Keenan Allen's at, man. He's played great on the season. You know, he really has been pretty consistent. His 2 worst performances were week 4 and week 6. But other than those 2 weeks, he's had at least 10 fantasy points every game. He's still a top 25 receiver. So I think he'll probably finish around the top 20 mark easily, man. Jew, any defense worth picking up for the end of the season? Got Tampa Bay and New Orleans, but do not want to drop New Orleans. There's probably not. There's really not any defenses that are absolutely standing out to me as like we need to go pick them up right now. Maybe take a look at the Patriots, the Panthers, and the Broncos. They're kind of similar to New Orleans, where they don't have consistently good weeks, but when they have good weeks, we want them on our teams. The Panthers had a pretty good day yesterday, but the Patriots had a much better day, right? And then the Saints, it's hard to say. You know, some weeks they really show up, some weeks they don't. So, and quite frankly, Tampa Bay is the same way, and Tampa Bay is really only strong up front. So, I would take a look at the Patriots or the Panthers as well as the Broncos. They might be available in your leagues, but I would say that they're pretty similar to where New Orleans is at, right? So I don't know if it's worth going and dropping either of those 2 teams in Tampa Bay or New Orleans for them. Jerry, Bills, Chiefs, and Rams. Titans are getting serious. Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like they have in prime time beaten some of the best teams over the last year in the National Football League. So I would definitely agree that they're definitely contenders. Yeah. Christian, should I trade away Saquon for D Hop and Montgomery? I would hold on to Saquon there unless you're really hurting for depth at the receiver position. It gives you an option down the stretch. But listen, I love David Montgomery, but I am a little bit worried with the emergence of Khalil Herbert as well as Tariq Cohen potentially coming back on the season. That maybe if he's not fully healthy or if he's not 100%, we have some weeks where those other 2 backs are sprinkled in, especially Khalil Herbert. He's been phenomenal in Montgomery's absence. So I think Saquon is offering you a higher ceiling, but down the stretch, this could be a good trade if when D Hop and Montgomery are healthy. But if you're in a win now situation, I would hold on to Saquon personally. Ron the Goat, what to do with Kadarius Tony? They don't try to get him the ball enough. Man, he's been so incredibly inconsistent, and he's been injured quite a bit. That I'm just not crazy about Kadarius Tony. I really haven't been all season long. Um, and even when we've had good matchups, and I've said, okay, well, maybe we can take a swing on him here because the matchup is good enough, and every other receiver is injured, or half of them are injured, or whatever. He hasn't shown up, man. And sure, you're probably right here. That's not entirely his fault. At the same time, he hasn't shown up. So uh, if there are better options, I think you can consider dropping him or making him part of a trade deal. All right, Mr. Sarcastic, Diggs, Waddle, and OPJ for Adams. Mr. Sarcastic, it depends on how your roster would look afterwards, right? Do you have enough depth to pull this trade? Because you can start Diggs, and you can start Waddle on a weekly basis, right? Now, I think this is a good trade. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love Diggs. I've liked Waddle a lot throughout the season. I don't care for Odell Beckham. Right? I really don't view him as that fantasy relevant. But if you're going to get Devontae Adams, then yes, I think this is worth it. Yeah. But let me know, Mr. Sarcastic, what the rest of your roster would look at the wide receiver position afterwards. Troy Smith, 10 man, full PPR. Seriously, I need a move. Okay. Justin Herbert, CMC, AK, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Kyle Pitts, Dalvin Cook. Then you got Montgomery, Adrian Peterson, Higgins, Kirk, Moss, and Ridley. I'm 3-6. I need to win now. Wow. Wow. Russ on IR. Huh. This is tough because this team is like absolutely freaking loaded, man. I have no idea how you're 3-6 right now. Man, I would try and package your bench. Like just take those bench players that you're not going to start and just try and get a monster player, like an extreme value. Find a team at the top, man, and offer them, right? Higgins, Kirk, Zach Moss, Calvin Ridley, and just try and get a player that's going to give you extreme value because you're probably starting everyone who's in your starting lineup. And I would hold on to David Montgomery if you can. Like if you can make a big package deal and get a player of extreme value, that would be my first recommendation. So let me know where your headspace is at, Troy, and let me know who you think you can target realistically because it does kind of depend overall. The teams at the top, who do they have that you think you can target in regards to their depth? But honestly, man, for a 10-man league, that is a great team. I'm very surprised to see you at a 3-6 record, to be honest. But I think that your core roster is great, and I think that David Montgomery could be beneficial down the stretch. So I would look at those guys: T. Higgins, Christian Kirk, even Adrian Peterson, Zach Moss, and Calvin Ridley, and just try and do a monster package deal, and then go to the waiver wire afterwards in terms of depth. But if you need to win now, man, I would just try and get a player of extreme value at the wide receiver or running back position right away. Let's see here. Drew, Chubb, Thielen, and Sutton for Hill and Mark Andrews. Other running backs are Najee and Montgomery. Okay, what's going on, Drew? Good to see you here, man. I don't know, man. Like, this is a decent trade. Don't get me wrong. It once again does depend on the rest of your roster. Like, how does losing Thielen and Sutton affect your wide receivers? But man, I think down the stretch, having Chubb, Najee, and Montgomery is going to be so incredibly beneficial. I mean, if you're hurting enough at wide receiver and tight end, and you feel like those are the weakest parts of your roster, it's worth a thought. But here's my initial thought: even if you're receiving Tyreek Hill or a top tight end like Mark Andrews, if you're trading away Nick Chubb right now, you deserve extreme value. And Tyreek Hill's been trending downwards. So for me, I mean, like, I think you should be able to take Sutton out of that trade, for example. I think Chubb and Thielen for Hill and Andrews is fair. I wouldn't sell too much because Chubb is about to have a phenomenal stretch of just terrorizing defenses. He's got some very, very, very favorable matchups coming up. And he's coming off one of his best performances on the year. So I wouldn't sell too low right now with Chubb. So let me know overall what your receivers look like. Do you need Tyreek Hill that badly? Because I mean, I believe in David Montgomery, but once again, I have a little bit of concerns around him as well with Khalil Herbert coming in and with the injuries and everything going on, right? So I mean, Thielen's been very, very consistent on the year. I just think it depends on the rest of your roster. Fanta, trade away Adams for Deontay Johnson and AJ Brown. I need wide receiver depth. I got Judy and Tony. If you need the depth bad enough, I don't actually hate this trade because AJ Brown's been playing so well and Deontay Johnson's been so incredibly consistent on the year. Does it hurt to lose Devonta Adams? Absolutely. But this is a trade worth considering if you truly need the depth. Now, the interesting thing is here, Adams on a good day with, let's say, Jerry Judy could be equivalent to starting Johnson and Brown on the same day. That's how good Adams is. So if you guys are considering trading away a player like Devontae Adams, you just have to consider what you're losing, right? So I don't actually hate this trade, right? I think it's relatively fair if you really feel like you need the depth, but just remember what Adams can do on a good day, right? All right, guys, make sure we're hitting that like button as we continue to throw or flow through the chat here, man. Love seeing everyone coming out, man. A little bit of an early day stream here, a little changing up the style, baby. Some guys, do kindly ask that you smash that like button. Let's try and get as many new viewers to today's stream as possible. If you guys are new to the channel, make sure you hit that sub button down below. All right. Will, do I drop Kyle Pitts for James Conner? I already have Darren Waller, and I can't get any more better than James Conner in a trade for Kyle Pitts, at least for these few weeks with Edmonds out. Yes. Yeah, I don't. Will, let me know who else you have on your squad, right? Let me know your full roster. There might be someone else I would recommend dropping over Pitts, but that's a tough decision on a week-to-week basis. Do I start Kyle Pitts or do I start Darren Waller? And if James Conner is available, I absolutely think he's worth picking up. Absolutely. If Edmonds plays or not, I mean, you guys got to look at these numbers for James Conner over the last 6 weeks now. I mean, he has been phenomenal. So, yes, I think it's worth it. But there might be a player who I would recommend dropping before dropping Kyle Pitts. Jerry, so now that Carson is back, Collins isn't playable, and I'm dropping Burkhead. That leaves me with no RB2. Okay. Should I take a chance with Gore, David Johnson, Hushek? Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. Gore or David Johnson are your best options here. Yeah. David Johnson, I hate to say it, might be the best option just due to the volume that he should see, Jerry. It's very, very rough. This is hard, man. I can't believe you lost Derrick Henry in that league too, man. That's ugly. Take a look, Jerry. I mean, is Ramondre Stevenson available? Is Brandon Bolden available? Can you deploy one of the Patriots running backs? That might help you. I know that league is very thin for you, but let me know. I mean, those would be good options as well. But as long as excuse me, as long who it's just tough, man. It's Philip Lindsay, right? I mean, I usually tell me who is available, so I don't want to put guys out there that you can't get right. But David Johnson's worth a shot here. Although I hate to see this for you, man. I really do. Let me know if the Patriots running backs are available as well. But if as long as Clyde Edwards-Helaire is out, you can take a swing on Derek Gore as well. Aaron Reborn, what's going on, man? Always good to see you, my guy. Over G, thoughts on Diggs, Elijah Moore, and Mike Williams rest of season help all as well. Appreciate that, Over. Always good to see you out here, my guy. All right, let's see here. Yeah, I'm fine with Diggs right now, guys. I really am. I don't have any problem with Diggs. I think he's going to be fine on the rest of the season. Is he going to offer us these extremely high ceilings? Maybe not, right? Maybe not. It's unfortunate, but maybe he's closer to like a Deontay Johnson on the season where they're putting up 10+ fantasy points every week, but they're just not offering us like 20-point ceilings, right? Which I think is okay, right? So I feel fine with Diggs. His biggest problem is there's too many mouths to feed within that Bills offense overall, right? Elijah Moore, I don't mind, guys, but we do need to kind of take in the fact that this is something I did bring up in the waiver wire video earlier today, that he had such a big game, but also Corey Davis was not active in this game. So that could affect things as well. So I think Elijah Moore, I mean, he's actually quietly had like at least, what is it? 8 to 10 fantasy points in the last 3 games. So he was playing well even before last Thursday. So, yes, I think that he's a fine waiver addition to keep an eye on and maybe could start to be a nice streak kind of down the stretch here as in his rookie campaign. So, do we start him right away? I don't necessarily think so, but he's worth taking a swing at for sure. Mike Williams, I am officially concerned about. Okay. I really encourage you guys to stand by Mike Williams. I really thought he'd have a good day versus the Eagles. He didn't have an awful day. He didn't play like he had the previous 2 weeks. But Mike Williams, now that we've started him against a couple bad defenses and he hasn't performed, I don't know exactly what to do with Mike Williams. I am relatively concerned, officially concerned with Mike Williams, who I've really had a lot of faith in on the season. So out of those 3 guys, I mean, Mike Williams has actually performed the best on the season, but he's the player I have the most concern on. Aaron Reborn, Justin Fields is about to have a 40-plus game today, so watch out. Let's see here. Drew, wide receivers, Deontay Johnson and Mike Williams. Tight end is Jared Cook. Okay, so you'd end up losing Thielen and Sutton and Chubb there. This is tough, man. And then you just have, okay, so you'd end up gaining. This is so tough, man. I really think, here's what I'll say, man. If you're going to do the trade, right? It's just a hard call to make, man. It really is. If you're going to do the trade, I would say that you should at least be able to take Thielen or Sutton off. Like Chubb is playing phenomenal right now, and that's not going to stop. So I rebuttal, man, and try and take at least Sutton off the trade, looking at your depth there. But if you've got the faith in the trade, then I think you can get by with Deontay Johnson and Mike Williams, and you definitely need to upgrade a tight end. But the concern there is that if you're leaning on Mike Williams, as we just talked about, I don't know how consistent we're going to see him play on the season. So, man, it's just tough there. It's really tough. Let me know where your headspace around the trade is overall. Jerry, I hope so. This week was ugly for me. I don't deserve the win. Yeah. Thanks. Troy Smith, thanks for the response. I lost some trades along the way, but one more. I lost early and tried to build a team for the playoffs, but now I've got to win. Yeah. We're at that point, guys, where we really, you're either going to make it or not, right? I mean, we're like halfway through the season, more than halfway through the season. So for the fantasy, we're getting close to playoffs, guys. It's flying by this year. Mr. Sarcastic, if I got Adams, my team would be Lamar, Aaron Jones, Najee Harris, Adams, A.J. Brown. Flex is up to Williams, Carter, and Higgins. And Mark Andrews. Okay. I like that team overall then. Yeah. I like that squad overall. I would take a swing there. I would do that trade. Lamar, Jones, Harris, Adams, A.J. Brown. And I'm assuming that's Devonta Williams, Michael Carter, and T. Higgins. I think that team is good enough, man, with Mark Andrews as well. Yeah. And then you can turn the waiver wire and pick up a couple of these studs coming up towards the end of the fantasy season. So I would take a shot there, Mr. Sarcastic. I don't mind that at all. I mean, you go out and you get one of the best players at his respective position in the league. So I don't have a problem with that. Aaron Reborn. So Connor had a 40-plus point game, which I know isn't going to be consistent. And right now, him and Patterson are my running backs. Robinson comes back this week. So would you recommend putting Robinson in for Connor? Listen, guys, James Conner has been phenomenal this season, right? I love where he's at, man. Like, I know, I do agree with you. It's not going to be consistent by any means, but at the same time, I just don't want to see you guys benching James Conner. Like, he's at that point on the season. Like, he's still a top 20 back even before this week. But when we look at the stats, man, in his last 7 games now, he's got 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 touchdowns in his last 7 games. Okay. I don't know that we can bench James Conner, even going up against Carolina here in week 10. Is he going to have 37 points or 40 points? No. But at the same time, he's been incredibly consistent on the season. So I wouldn't necessarily consider putting James Robinson, who's banged up, in over him. But if James Robinson is healthy, he's been pretty consistent when healthy on the season as well. But it's a tough matchup for Robinson versus Indianapolis in week 10. So I actually would lean James Conner there, and we need to monitor James Robinson relatively closely. He should get a better break in weeks 11 and 12 versus San Francisco and Atlanta in comparison to week 10 versus the Colts. All right, let's see here. Shelton, is Zeke playing this week? It's probably far too early to call that, my guy. We'll definitely have to monitor this situation throughout the week, being that he does have a knee contusion. But at the same time, I have faith that he'll probably suit up, right? But you just never know. So we'll definitely have to monitor it. But this is probably going to be a day-by-day thing, unfortunately, my guy. Jerry, sorry, John, I can see you stressing out about my team. No worries, man. I just want to do whatever I can to help you, man. I really do. Michael, hey, man, I need 8 points to win this week. Do I start Montgomery or Khalil tonight? This is such a tough decision, guys. This is something I really wanted to get into and get your guys' thoughts on, okay? I've got a matchup tonight where I'm up by about 40 points, but my opponent has Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson, and then I have Khalil, Herbert, or David Montgomery, and I don't quite know who to start here. My gut is telling me Khalil Herbert is the better start, as Montgomery is just out of nowhere coming back from this injury. And then my heart is telling me go with David Montgomery, the guy that you loved all offseason, preseason. So I could really argue this either way, Michael. Let me know where your headspace is at, because Khalil has been a phenomenal fill-in, and I'm not going to be surprised if Khalil Herbert sees a lot of the volume tonight to help Montgomery kind of slowly be worked back into this game, right? I'm very surprised that the Bears overall did not just leave Montgomery out of this game plan and give him the bye week to fully rest up, right? So it's just a tough call. It's a tough call. I want to get some more feedback on this, Michael, but we'll get you an answer by the end of the night. Chosen Rose, I'm winning by 7, and my opponent has Steelers defense left. You definitely have a shot. Definitely have a shot, man. It's slim, but you have a shot for sure, man. Because if the Bears come out and play well, which I think they have a chance to, then you can definitely piece this thing together, man. So don't lose faith, the Chosen Rose. Jerry, the only pitcher running back available is Jacob Johnson. Okay, we want to stay away from that then. What about Eno Benjamin? I really hope Henderson's injury isn't serious. Otherwise, I'm really done for. I don't feel great about any of those calls, man. I really don't. At that point, I just go. Oh gosh, it's tough. I go with Derek Gore or David Johnson over all those players, Jerry. Gosh, that's tough, Jerry. Oval 3R. Hey, man, this week was super rough. Henry getting hurt really made me scramble. Yeah, this week was rough, and this was an odd week 9 of action, right? I don't really know what to say about week 9. It was just a weird week. We've had a lot of weird weeks this season, right? And a lot of weeks that have been difficult to call after the fact, right? So maybe week 10 we get a little bit more normal, more back to what we're expecting, but we'll see, man. And yeah, I know Henry getting hurt really messed up a lot of you guys. Jerry, those early season trades are a lot of fun, but can really ruin you in the long run. I've learned my lesson. Yeah, it's definitely difficult. That's why I stay away from trades at the beginning of the season. I really do. And I stay away from trades in general, unless I'm absolutely desperate. So, but that's just me personally. Sometimes trades can work in your favor, of course. So, it just depends, man. But sometimes doing it too early, man, can really, really mess you up as well. All right, Aaron Reborn. Make my wide receiver, running back, and flex lineup. All right, Cup, Adams, Williams, Robinson, Patterson, and Connor. So assuming it's 2 wide receivers, 2 running backs, and 1 flex, you're going with Cup no matter what. I'm still sticking with Adams no matter what, whether it's J-Lo or Aaron Rodgers. Regardless, we're rolling with Adams there. Which Williams is that? Is my next question. Is that Javonte Williams? Is that I mean, it could be. There's a lot of Williams out there. Mike Williams, right? But nonetheless, man, for me, Cup, Adams, Patterson, Connor for sure. And then I'd probably roll with Robinson if he's fully healthy. If not, then I'd take a swing on Williams. Mike Williams. Okay. So yeah, Cup and Adams for sure. Patterson and Connor for sure. No question about it in my mind. Robinson, if he plays, right, just due to volume and the fact that he should find the end zone. And the fact that Mike Williams has been so incredibly inconsistent as of late, I would start a healthy James Robinson over him, but if he's not, then I think Mike Williams is still a good enough start on the week. But Adams, Kupp, Patterson, and Connor are in your lineup no matter what, in my opinion. Aaron Reborn, I'd start Herbert over Montgomery, truthfully, but that's just me. Yeah, it's a fine opinion, man. And I'm glad to see I'm not the only fantasy owner on the night that has to make this decision, because it's really tough, actually. Because it's like we know what David Montgomery can do when fully healthy, but is he fully healthy? And then we know that Khalil Herbert's been a phenomenal fill in. And it's like I'm assuming that Herbert is going to help take the weight off of David Montgomery. But at the same time, what if he doesn't? And then vice versa. What if you start Montgomery and they just don't use him a whole lot, right? So it's really tough. And then on top of all that, the Steelers have been pretty good. I mean, they're a top 10 unit against the run. So it's a very tough decision, right? You can really argue this either way. And some of us have matchups depending on it. So I kind of almost wish like that David Montgomery was just not active for the week. And then he had the bye week to recover. I mean, it just probably would have simplified things, because there are a lot of owners out there who have David Montgomery and then went out and picked up Khalil Herbert as well. So it's tough, man. It's tough. Like I said, we could probably argue this either way. I think for those of us who have to make this decision, we just have to go with our gut instinct. And I'm not quite sure where mine is. I was hoping by the time the stream ends that I'd have my mind made up. I think right now went ahead and I have Khalil Herbert in there just in case. Like during the day, the Bears made some announcement that they were going to rest Montgomery or whatever, right? And on the app, he still had the IR destination. So I was like, maybe just in case this is the better, safer play. But at this point in time, it looks like Montgomery's definitely going to suit up. So it's going to be tough, man. Could Khalil end up seeing more PPR value throughout the night? Potentially. Could Montgomery end up seeing more goal line work? Potentially. So it's like you could argue this both ways. It's really, really a tough decision, man. Will L, what's going on, man? Godwin or Evans next week? This is a great question. I like both of these guys a lot next week. Okay. The Washington football team secondary has been awful on the season. So you can definitely take a swing on either guy here. Okay. I don't really fear anyone lining up against either of these guys in that unit. As of late, Mike Evans has been pretty consistent. Like outside of week 6, and if you scratch off week 1, he's had at least 11 fantasy points every week on the year. So he's actually shown up in terms of consistency, which I always like, man. When we're looking at Chris Godwin, while he's offering slightly higher ceilings, he's a little bit, just a tiny bit less. Actually, really, when you look at this, week 4, 7 points on average, week 6, 6.8 points on average. But outside of that, at least 10 fantasy points in every matchup, but really at least 14 or more fantasy points on average. Really, if you just take away week 5, where he had about at least 10.5 points. And over these last 2 games versus Chicago and New Orleans, who have awful secondaries, he's had at least 21 fantasy points. So I think that Godwin might end up being the better play, just because as of late, he's playing a lot better, but they're both phenomenal plays on the week. So I don't think you really have to fear starting Godwin or Evans on the week. They're both going to have good weeks here in week 10 for sure. All right, let's see. We're kind of going through the week, man, before we hop back into the chat there. So we've got Vikings and Chargers. Should be a good matchup for everyone involved. Should be another shootout. Seahawks and Packers on Sunday. Depends on who's playing the quarterback position, but I believe Russell Wilson is now expected to come back here in week 10, and Aaron Rodgers can technically still play on Sunday. He is technically eligible to pass COVID protocol by Saturday night. So as long as he's not testing positive, he should be good to go. And I would assume that the Packers would want to start him the way that Jordan Love. I mean, listen, Jordan Love didn't have a lot of support. It's a tough environment to have your first start in. He could have definitely played better, but I don't think everything last night was his fault. But nonetheless, think if you're Packers, you want Aaron Rodgers out there, right? So the Seahawks have Russell Wilson out there, and the Packers have Aaron Rodgers out there. This is going to be one of the better games of the afternoon. Then we got Eagles and Broncos, right? This is actually a relatively interesting game in terms of fantasy. So, yeah, I think week 10 is going to be actually a pretty intensive week, so to speak, right? I mean, we've got some pretty good matchups overall, and then we're kind of at this point in the season where The playoff hunt is starting to kind of form itself. So we definitely need to keep an eye on these overall game scripts, right? And how these teams are kind of starting to deploy their playmakers, right? This is, I mean, we're really getting into the heart of the season, man. So we'll definitely need to be keeping close eyes on how everything plays out. Outside of that, man, we've got the Chiefs and Raiders. A very good game, man. The Raiders 5-3, the Chiefs 5-4. The Raiders at the top of that division right now. So that'll be interesting. Then we got the Rams and the Rams and the Niners on Monday Night Football. So we got a lot to look forward to this week, guys. I'm excited, man. I truly, truly am. All right, let's see here. Gee, I'm looking at Devontae's fantasy points so far, and it's pretty close to Terry's numbers. Yeah, yeah. Devontae Adams is so much better than Terry McLaurin. He is. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I have a lot of respect. I love our guy, Scary Terry. But, yeah, they both have had down weeks on the season, man. Don't get me wrong. But I do believe that Devontae Adams is going to offer you a higher ceiling and upside in comparison to all of these other guys. I mean, on weeks that he's scored, outside of week 7, where he had at least 16 points, on weeks that he's scored outside of week 7, he's had at least 25 fantasy points. So the biggest issue with him is that he just hasn't necessarily found the end zone quite enough. But he's had some down weeks, don't get me wrong. Now, I think he can scratch week 9 with Jordan Love being the starter, but I think that over the next 2 weeks, as long as Aaron Rodgers is playing, he'll have a good week in week 10 and a good week in week 11 and two, kind of shootout matchups. And they've got LA in week 12. Should be a great, great game to watch, right? But listen to this, man. Devontae Adams has got Chicago in week 14 and Baltimore in week 15 in the fantasy playoffs. Phenomenal, phenomenal matchups. But I will say, guys, I think right now is a really good time to buy Terry McLaurin kind of low, right? He's been extremely inconsistent over the past couple of weeks and has had some of his worst games over the past couple of weeks. And he's kind of similar to Adams in the way that when he scores, okay, week 2, 22 points, week 4, 27 points, and week 7, 21 points. Those are the only weeks he's scored on the season. On weeks where he has not scored, he's finished under 9 fantasy points every single week, depending on scoring format, of course. Scary Terry, on the other hand, has got Tampa Bay, Carolina, Seattle, Vegas, and Dallas, and then Philadelphia as well. So some very favorable matchups, a couple tough matchups, right? Carolina should see Stephon Gilmore. Dallas should see Diggs, right? So, but really, he's got some good matchups, man, coming up. I think right now is a good time to buy him low. And I think it's okay to go ahead and buy Adams kind of high as well. Still think trading for Adams was the right move, but hoping Terry doesn't blow up. Yeah, I think that he could, man. Gee, 14 targets of Jordan Love is pretty misleading. Should be like 6 with the balls Love is throwing. Fair enough. Will, who are some wide receiver 1/RB1 to trade for right now for their playoff schedules? This is a great question, man. And I plan on making some videos really like diving into this. I mean, I think Nick Chubb, who's going to be very difficult to buy, is definitely someone that we want to look at, right? He has got phenomenal matchups coming up, man. Okay. Uh, New England is a kind of middle of the pack, not a great matchup. And then after that, Detroit, Baltimore, a bye week, Baltimore, Vegas, and Green Bay. I mean, I think Nick Chubb is just going to start tearing it up like we saw yesterday. And I think yesterday, I mean, I've talked about this a little bit over the past week or so. I mean, this is really the start of that kind of reign, right? But outside of that, man, let's take a look at a couple of guys here, okay? And I really want to exclude some of the top guys because I want to keep it realistic as well. But let's see here. James Conner has got Seattle a bye week, or Carolina this week, relatively tough, but then Seattle a bye week, Chicago, the Rams, Detroit, and Indy. That's a relatively tough schedule, but it's not awful. He's someone to take a look at. Let's look at DeAndre Swift, who a lot of people have been willing to sell as of late. He's got Pittsburgh and Cleveland, 2 tough matchups, Chicago, pretty tough matchup, in Minnesota, Denver, Arizona. That's not good. It's not good at all. Now I'll tell you, 2 backs. I don't know who you want to pick out of this backfield, man. But the Denver Broncos running backs, Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, have got Philadelphia a bye week, the Chargers, Kansas City, Detroit, Cincinnati, Las Vegas, and if your playoff schedule dips into week 17, which it probably won't, they've got the Chargers. These Broncos running backs, especially Javonte Williams, you should be able to buy pretty low. Man, they have got some beautiful beautiful matchups coming up. They are definitely worth taking a look at. All right. Miles Gaskin, who I don't want you guys to trust, but if you can buy him low enough, he's got Baltimore, the Jets, a tough matchup at Carolina, but then the Giants, a bye week, then the Jets, then New Orleans. It's a decent matchup. I'm not saying trade a really good player for Miles Gaskin, but you might be able to buy him low enough and stream him against those poor defenses and make the most of it as well. But man, I'm telling you, these Broncos running backs, they're absolutely worth taking a swing on. Let's see where David Montgomery and company have, or what they have down the stretch. Man, Baltimore, Detroit, two great matchups out the gate. Then Arizona, a tough matchup at Green Bay, Minnesota, and Seattle. David Montgomery has got a pretty good stretch coming up as well. So he might be worth taking a look at. Let's see who the Giants play down the stretch here, okay? Tampa Bay, a tough matchup in week 11. But then Philadelphia, Miami, the Chargers, Dallas, and Philly. I really like that stretch if he can make a swing for our guy, Saquon Barkley. I'm interested to see who Christian McCaffrey has down the stretch. I don't know if you'll be able to buy him necessarily, but Arizona, a tough matchup. Washington, Miami, a bye week. Atlanta, Buffalo, Tampa Bay. It's pretty tough for Christian McCaffrey down the stretch, man. But nonetheless, he's Christian McCaffrey. I don't know if it really matters. All right, let's look at Josh Jacobs, though. Kansas City, Cincinnati, Dallas, Washington, Kansas City, Cleveland, Denver. Very, very tough in what should be your actual like championship and pre-championship games, right? Cleveland and Denver. But outside of that, in the next coming weeks, I really like Josh Jacobs right now. Let's take a look at the Niners and Eli Mitchell, right? The Rams, Jacksonville, Minnesota, Seattle, Cincinnati, Atlanta, Tennessee. That's not that bad. Tennessee in week 16 is tough. And of course, the Rams in week 10 is relatively tough, right? Outside of that, those are pretty good matchups. If you believe Eli Mitchell is going to be the starter moving forward. All right. Let's see here. Let's keep looking. Let's pull up a couple of receivers as well. Ones that I think you can realistically take a swing on. I mean, Michael Pittman's been playing amazing, but it seems like some fantasy owners are willing to move on from him. He's got Jacksonville in week 10, which is great. Tough matchup versus Buffalo in week 11, but then Tampa Bay, Houston, a bye week. New England and Arizona is kind of tough, New England especially, but Michael Pittman's got a pretty favorable schedule coming up. Let's look at the Panthers and DJ Moore, who we just looked at with Christian McCaffrey, right? Arizona, tough. I mean, not the toughest matchup, but a decent matchup. Then Washington, Miami, a bye week. Atlanta, Buffalo, Tampa Bay. You take away week 15 with Buffalo, that's a pretty good roster or pretty good schedule coming up for DJ Moore. You should be able to buy like pretty damn low with the way the Panthers have been playing. So he might be someone to keep an eye on, man. Let's look at the Texans and Brandon Cooks, man, on bye this week. But then, wow, they've got Tennessee, the Jets, Indianapolis, Seattle, Jacksonville, and the Chargers. You could probably buy Brandon Cooks pretty damn low right now, and I think that would actually be a good move looking at that schedule coming up. Let's look at Miami, man. Let's see here. Jalen Waddle has got Baltimore, the Jets, Carolina, the Giants, a bye week, the Jets, and New Orleans. I mean, really, take away the Saints and Marshawn Lattimore if he ends up lining up on Waddle. You take away Carolina with Stephon Gilmore. This is a pretty good stretch for Jalen Waddle and company as well. So, I mean, I'm just looking at players who I think you guys can realistically buy and not have to give up your entire roster, and they might be worth it. Let's take a swing at T. Higgins. Let's see what's going on with the Bengals. I mean, at least 9 fantasy points in his last 3 games. A bye week here in week 10, but then Vegas, Pittsburgh, the Chargers, San Francisco, Denver, and Baltimore. Man, you take out Denver, that's a good stretch, man, for T. Higgins. He might be worth taking a look at. I wonder who the Raiders have down the stretch here. Dallas, Washington, Kansas City, Cleveland, Denver for the Raiders. That's a pretty good stretch as well. Maybe if we take away week 16, for really hurting that receiver, that might be worth it as well. Hunter Renfrow, that is. So I hope that was helpful, man. Let me know who you would want to target out of those players overall. All right, let's see here. Do you, as an Aaron Jones owner, go get him low now? Okay. Matchup-wise, Eckler plays Swiss cheese defenses rest of the season. Devonta over MG3 for sure, man. Yeah, I like that recommendation of Eckler, but you're probably going to give up a lot for him. And yeah, I think it's probably a smart move. That's a great recommendation, Jew. I mean, you could probably go out and buy Aaron Jones pretty low with the way that he played, right? So, especially with AJ Dillon getting a lot of work, which I'm not personally concerned about. I do think on the season, the bulk of the PPR value and the red zone value is going to go to Aaron Jones. So that's probably a good call too. You can probably buy Aaron Jones at the lowest point you'll probably be able to all season long. And yeah, I really hope that Javonte Williams can be the guy. Oh, excuse me. For the Broncos, man, I'm really banking on this. I've been banking on it all season long. Went out and drafted Javonte Williams. I have not given up on him yet. He had a great day, man. I know he didn't find the end zone. That's been our biggest problem with him on the season is that he just hasn't scored, right? A ton, that is. On weeks that he scored, he's been great. On weeks that he hasn't scored, he really hasn't done much outside of what we saw. I mean, 111 rushing yards versus the Cowboys is nothing to sneeze at, man. I really am hoping that it's Javonte Williams. I'm sticking to my gut here, and I'm putting all my faith in Javonte Williams, man. All right, let's see here. Oil, should I trade Aaron Jones for CMC? Huh. Jew says if you remove week 1 versus the Saints in this week with Jordan Love, Aaron Jones is RB3 and half PPR. CMC is juicy, though. That's an interesting stat. Thanks for bringing that up, Jew. Yeah. This is tough, man. I think CMC is a tougher stretch in terms of strength of schedule, right? But really tough to monitor this because what if CMC ends up unhealthy, right? At any point, then you're probably going to not feel great about this, right? Man, that's tough. But if CMC can get back to true form, right, and really be matchup proof, then the trade is absolutely worth it. But at the same time, I mean, I think it's a fair swap either way. Okay, I really do. But I would, I really am. It's rough to recommend you guys trading not Aaron Jones, but I mean, even Aaron Jones to some degree, but CMC definitely. It's hard. Let's look at Aaron Jones' upcoming schedule. Seattle, Minnesota, the Rams. The Rams are good against the run, but they're not phenomenal. So I'm not reading too much into that, right? And a bye week in Chicago, who's kind of middle of the pack, close to the Rams and rankings in Baltimore. It's a good matchup. Then tough matchup versus Cleveland in week 16. So overall here, Aaron Jones has some more favorable matchups, but AJ Dillon is eating into those carries as well. So it's tough. It's tough. Jew, depends if you need Aaron Jones the next week or two. CMC might not be 100%. Yeah. And like this game script for CMC was really weird, right? I mean, the Patriots defense played quite well. So I could go back and forth on this one. Let me know where your headspace is at personally. How do you feel about Aaron Jones on the rest of the season? How do you feel about what you would be with CMC on your roster? Drew, team is Kyler, Deontay, Mike Williams, Thielen, Sutton, Renfro, David Montgomery, Chubb, Najee, Cook. I'm 4-5. What do I do? Okay. We definitely want to hold on to Kyler, Deontay, and Thielen. Okay. I would hold on to Renfro as well. David Montgomery, Chubb, and Najee are definitely two players that you want to hold on to. My recommendation would be look to ship Mike Williams and Sutton and go out and get I would go out and target a kind of a stud tight end or another wide receiver one. If you can get both, right? If you can find a roster up there that's kind of hurting for some receivers, right? And you can come out of it with a receiver of equivalent value to Sutton or Mike Williams and get a tight end as well. That would probably be my recommendation, right? But I would try and hold on to Deontay Johnson, Kyler Murray. Thielen's been extremely consistent. Renfro is a good enough play that I would hold on to him. Then Montgomery, Chubb, and Najee are really what's going to get you down the stretch. But yeah, it's not going to hurt to try and get a top tight end or at least a top 10 tight end and replace Jared Cook. And then it's not going to hurt necessarily. Oh, man, it's just tough, right? I mean, tight end's the biggest glaring hole for me, right? So I would look. Man, I don't want to see you give up too much for a tight end, but outside of that, man, it's tough because your team's pretty good, actually. Oriole, I will be 5-4 after this week, and I will be 4th place. Should I sell D Hop? Yeah, If it's not going to hurt your receiver depth, and fourth place is a good place to be, even if you're 5-4. So, uh, I would I would consider selling him because we don't necessarily know when he's going to come back, right? Let's see here. Sushi lovers, stop the Nick Chubb slander. What slander did we have on Nick Chubb? I really, really like Nick Chubb, man. When we look at this upcoming schedule, man, I've been so high on Nick Chubb. I really don't want to see you guys. If you guys are selling Nick Chubb right now, you better be getting an arm and a leg for your roster, man, because he's been phenomenal. And I think that this upcoming stretch, which I really think started yesterday. I kind of talked to you guys about this last week and the week before that, especially after that poor performance that we saw in week 8, right? I mean, I'm just telling you guys, I think Nick Chubb is absolutely going to bounce back in high fashion. He's got some very poor defenses coming up. Drew, you think the starting lineup is ready for the playoffs? Rodgers, Jones, Eckler, Swift. Rodgers, Jones, Eckler, Swift. Adams, Keenan, Goodert have been swapping Swift with Deontay on and off. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. That's a loaded team, man. Your biggest problem is probably Aaron Rodgers, right? But having the combination of Adams and Rodgers is great as well. So I think that team looks pretty good going into the playoffs for sure. Brian, I won, but it was an ugly win. Only 63 points and still have Deontay Johnson. My opponent forgot to fix his lineup. Hey, if you get the win, you get the win, man. So shout out to you, Brian. Jew, I'd sell D. Got to play through injury hop. There you go. Sushi lover, Win Kittle. Yeah, not sure what you're referring to, my guy. Let me know, man. But Kittle, had a monster day yesterday. Played phenomenal against what was the best team in the league against posting tight ends. So Kittle went off, man. Jew, your opponent had Kyler, question mark. Oriole, my receivers are Robert Woods, Marquise Brown, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, besides D-Hop. Yeah, man, you can start 3 out of 4 of those guys on a weekly basis. DJ Moore's got some favorable matchups coming up. Robert Woods has been extremely underrated and consistent on the year. Hollywood Brown is on pace for like 1,400 receiving yards. And Justin Jefferson, I know at times has been disappointing, but he's still Justin Jefferson. So, yeah, I would definitely sell D-Hop right now for sure. Brian, no, he had Brady, defense, and kicker on a bye. Then D-Hop and James Robinson when company were hurt. Oh, my gosh. I would almost feel guilty. But, hey, if you get the dub, you get the dub. Brian, only player he had was Woods, so I'm up 63-17. Oh, my goodness, man. Jew Oreo, that's like a wide receiver 1 and 2, wide receiver 1/2. You're fine without D-Hop. Yeah, I think in your circumstance, it definitely makes sense to go ahead and trade away DeAndre Hopkins for sure. All right, guys, make sure you hit that like button, man. Let's try and get as many new viewers to the stream as possible. Let's just keep the conversation going. What do you guys need heading into week 10? Please let me know, guys. It's and if you need anything for tonight's game as well, please let me know. And once again, man, let me know in the chat, okay? David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, who would you guys start? I'm going to try and take your guys' word on this one, okay? Because I don't know who to start. And I'm really, really going back and forth on this one at the time. So it's tough, right? I think Montgomery could see more red zone carries. I think Herbert might end up getting some good PPR and down the field work as well. So it's just tough. Sushi lover, Jacobs or Elijah are for week 10. This is tough. I want to say Josh Jacobs here because I just still believe in Josh Jacobs on the season, man. And let's take a double check at the matchups here. So Jacobs is going to have Kansas City, and he's had double-digit fantasy games in his last 4 games. I like Jacobs, man. I really, really do. I don't want to get away from my personal conviction there. But let's take a look at Eli Mitchell, who, if I'm not mistaken, has double-digit fantasy points in his last 3 games. He's got the Rams. It's a tougher matchup for Mitchell. He's played quite well, though, and he's played like a true RB1, which is definitely encouraging. So for me, I'd still lean Jacobs there, but it's definitely a tough call. Brian, who would be better, Kyler or Lamar in fantasy? Just looking at a health basis, I think Lamar is the guy to go with, right? He's got a pretty good matchup here on Thursday Night Football. So, I mean, the Dolphins' secondary has been awful. I take a chance on Lamar here, man. Two, I have no trade fodder left to trade Rodgers for another quarterback. Got Dylan, Tony, Madison, and Deontay left on my bench. Also don't know who to target anymore with all the top quarterbacks underperforming. Yeah, it's probably true. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, when he plays, is at least consistent, right? Like, is he going to offer you a crazy floor? Not necessarily. He's going to offer you a crazy ceiling? Not necessarily, but at least he's consistent, and at least he doesn't deal with a lot of injuries. And yeah, you're right. A lot of the top quarterbacks, Kyler Murray, Josh Allen, have been underperforming. So I think you're fine there. I think you're fine. I like your bench as well. I mean, Dylan and Madison, too, great overall handcuff situations. And then looking uh, outside of that, right? I mean, Deontay's been great on the season. And Tony is probably that one player. It's always good to have one player that you're not completely sold on that you can kind of have the opportunity to switch out on the waiver wire as well. Gio, I take the chance with Montgomery. He almost played last week, so I think he's playing today. Okay. Both Montgomery and Herbert, you have a 50% chance the other guy is playing. Yeah, it's really tough. It's really tough. I could go back and forth on this one probably all night long, right? And it's just going to be, this could really determine if I win this matchup or not. So let's see here. I'm going to put Montgomery in because that's who I want to play. That's like who I want to see do well. So, yeah, it's going to be close. I'm projected 109. My opponent's projected 99 points. So it's really tough here. Oreo, DeAndre Hopkins, and Robert Woods for Debo. That's tough, man. I would rather you see you just trade DeAndre Hopkins straight up and get a decent return for it. Let me know who you think you can get for Hopkins, but if you don't think you can swing the deal, I mean, Debo's been a little bit banged up is the only thing that really concerns me because outside of that, Debo's been amazing on the season. Brian, what fantasy app do you use? Just curious. I've got a league in Yahoo, a league through the NFL app, and a league through ESPN, and a league through Sleeper. So Sleeper, NFL, Yahoo, and I technically have an ESPN link as well. Drew, just have to hope Montgomery doesn't pull a Chase Edmonds. Yeah, I'm worried about it, man. I really am. Let's see here. Lucas, what's going on, man? I traded DJ Moore and Boston Scott for Emmanuel Sanders. I don't hate that. I do think DJ Moore has some favorable matchups coming up, but the quarterback play for the Panthers has been so bad that I don't necessarily hate this. I've been pretty high on Emmanuel Sanders all season long, but at the same time, you could argue between DJ Moore and Emmanuel Sanders. I think it's good use of getting rid of Boston Scott. So I don't necessarily hate this. I mean, Sanders probably offering the highest ceiling out of those three players. Drew, I wouldn't. Debo is hurt like D-Hop. Yeah, that is true. I would rather see you just be able to offboard D-Hop and get immediate, one-for-one immediate value. Jack, what's going on, man? Deontay Johnson or CeeDee Lamb? This is a good question here. This is a good question. So, I mean, the thing with Deontay Johnson, right? He's been so incredibly consistent on the season, right? I believe every single game he's played and he's had double-digit fantasy points. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I'm rooting against him tonight because I've got him against me. But he sees Detroit in Week 10. It's a great matchup. Like we can't deny it. And then when we're looking at CeeDee Lamb overall, once again, he's been not as consistent. But he gets Atlanta in Week 10, man. It's going to be really hard to bench CeeDee Lamb against Atlanta, okay? And the problem with CeeDee Lamb is when he's down, he has like 8 points or less. And he's had, like we saw versus Denver, just some really poor performances on the year. Week 4 versus Carolina, he only had like 2 fantasy points. So I think Lamb is offering you the higher ceiling, but the safer play is Deontay Johnson, right? So you could go back and forth on this one, man. Brian, I'm honestly surprised with the Titans. I am too, but we got to give them credit, man. I mean, they played fantastic football. So, yeah, apparently we want pieces of this Titans offense on our fantasy rosters, but I don't know what degree, right? Sushi Lover, how much do you think Deontay Johnson is going to have tonight? I'd say somewhere between 12 and 15 points. I mean, Chicago's secondary has been very bad, so I mean, I'm not going to be surprised if he goes absolutely off. I'm hoping he doesn't. I've still got him against me in my matchup, in a close matchup, but uh, he could absolutely. I mean, I think 12 points is the floor, right? Being realistic, and the ceiling is 20 points, so probably realistically somewhere in between that. This secondary for Chicago is awful, so I can definitely see him having a great night. Two, I'll say 40 and half PPR because that's what I need to win, but probably 15. Fair enough. Fair enough. Yeah, I think 15 is a fair place. But like I said, I mean, I got Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson left against me. I'm not up, or I'm up by a decent amount, but still not enough to feel comfortable. So we'll see what happens, man. Oil, I'm getting impatient with Patrick Mahomes, and no one in my league wants him. Yeah, yeah. Who's your backup? And I mean, it's tough, right? Let's see where Patty Mahomes is coming in on the season, although it's not going to factor in what we saw yesterday as well until tomorrow. So let's see here. He's still a top 10 quarterback with that 10-point performance versus Green Bay. I would imagine that he'll stay within the top 10. Uh, if he doesn't, he'll slide to like 11 or 12, which is frustrating, man, because you spent a pretty penny on this draft pick. And yeah, the last 3 weeks, 10, 14, 7. Okay. Outside of that, he'd only had 1 week where he finished under 20 fantasy points. Do I think that Patrick Mahomes can get this thing turned around? Yes, but they've got a prime time game here in week 10 on Sunday Night Football once again at the Las Vegas Raiders, which has been a relatively tough stadium to play in. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, this Raiders secondary is bad. This defense is not great at all. So, he's got a shot to turn it around in week 10. Week 11, they get Dallas, which is a relatively tough matchup. Bye week, then they get Denver, Vegas again, the Chargers, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati. So he definitely has a shot to turn things around. And maybe this is just a slump. And that's what we're certainly hoping for, man. But hey, these guys can't be amazing all the time. A lot of these stud players have slumps, so I wouldn't lose all faith in him. But I can definitely see you or why you're losing patience in them. And if you've got Herbert as your backup, which I see now, then I think you hold on to both those guys. They're both worth holding on to, and you can start Herbert in the meantime. So yeah, I wouldn't. I know it's difficult, and if you can't get the trade for him, that's probably frustrating. But just make sure you don't drop him for uh, a player that's not anywhere close to his caliber, because still having a top 12 quarterback on your bench is worth it to some degree. Jew, if Deontay gets 40, that means he took Najee's TD, so you're good. Yeah, no kidding. Hey, for your sake, I hope it works out, truthfully. Brian, Deontay will drop 21. I called it. Will Deontay will get 21.7 in full PPR. We'll see. We'll see. As long as Najee Harris doesn't have too crazy of a game, I'm fine with that. Zion, should I trade Zeke for Justin Jefferson, Javonte Williams, and Pollard full PPR? Zeke, and you end up with Justin Jefferson, Javonte Williams, and Pollard. I think this is a fair trade, but it kind of depends on your roster, right? Okay, my wide receivers, Jamar Chase, DJ Moore, and Julio. So hurting a little bit at the wide receiver position. I'd be interested to see who your running backs are as well. So let me know, and then we'll continue to break this one down for you, my guy. Guys, make sure you hit that like button if you haven't done so already. Let's try to get as many new viewers to today's stream as possible. And if you're new to the channel, I do kindly ask you consider subscribing down below. But if not, I just appreciate everyone coming out today, man. This has been a blast of a stream. Let's see here. Zion, I have James Robinson, Gaskin, and McKissick. Ooh, this is tough. This is really tough because you're gaining some wide receiver value. You're getting, I like Javonte Williams down the stretch, and you get that handcuff situation with Pollard. So you still have some running backs you can use. But, I mean, having Robinson, Gaskin, and McKissick, I don't know if you can rely on Robinson, Gaskin, McKissick, Williams, and Pollard. But you need the wide receiver depth as well. But at the same time, okay, I'm 1-7, by the way. I don't think I give up Zeke, quite frankly. because you can still get by with Jamar Chase and DJ Moore. I know Moore has been disappointing as of late, but he's got some favorable matchups down the stretch. And I just don't know how much more uh, value Justin Jefferson adds to this roster from the receiver position. Uh, it's hard because the other aspect is if you do this trade, you're going to have to drop. Well, let's see here. How many players would you have to drop? Yeah, I mean, realistically, you have to drop at least 2 players to end up with Williams, Pollard, and Jefferson. So, I mean, I don't necessarily hate this trade at the same time. I have some bums on my bench I could trade. Okay, or could drop. Okay. I don't hate this trade, but it's tough. It's tough here. I don't think it's an awful trade, but I think that Ezekiel Elliott is too valuable to let go of here. But I mean, you can start Javonte Williams, James Robinson, and Myles Gaskin at the running back position. It's just James Robinson health is what really is concerning me. So uh, I don't hate this trade. I think if you feel like it's the right move for your roster, then you go ahead and do it. All right, let's see here. Just traded Pat Freiermuth for Julio last week. Okay, that was probably a good move as well. Real good in the rest of season. Would you start Dalton Schultz or TJ Hawkinson? This is tough, man. This is tough. I mean, Schultz came back and had a good game. By the way, it's good to see you real good. I hope you're doing well, my guy. Uh, Hawkinson on the other week, of course, on bye week, but had a pretty good performance against Philadelphia. But he's been kind of up and down, but he's still a top 5 tight end on the season, which is relatively interesting, right? Outside of that, man, looking at Dalton Schultz, right? Once again, still a top 5 tight end as well. I think that I like Schultz's offense more. He's got Atlanta, Kansas City, Vegas, New Orleans, Washington, the Giants, and Washington coming up. So I think that Schultz is going to have some really, really good weeks up ahead. He's on the better offense, right? I mean, the Cowboys definitely better than the Lions. On the other hand, the Lions have Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Chicago, Minnesota, Denver, Arizona, and then a good matchup week 16 in Atlanta coming up. I think when we're looking at matchups and the respective offenses, right? I think I would lean Dalton Schultz there, just looking at the matchups and the respective offenses. All right. Zayon, after the game, Zeke said he has a knee issue that he's been going on for a couple of weeks now. Made me worried. I'm seeing a lot of people buy Williams now. Yeah, Williams has a phenomenal schedule down the stretch, and he played phenomenal yesterday as well. I don't hate that trade. I don't. If you think it's the right move, then I think it's fine. You add that receiver depth. You're going to have to lean on Javonte Williams. You're kind of banking on him turning it up the rest of the season, which I think he can do. But losing Zeke is definitely a lot of value to lose. But it might be the right move, especially if Zeke ends up, dealing with this injury at all, and you have Pollard, then that's a win, right? Just a little bit of a gamble there. But I don't hate that trade. I don't hate it at all. All right, let's see here. Michael, hey man, I'm probably going to do Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon for Mike Williams for CMC, Chuba, and Marquise Brown. How do you feel about that? That's very interesting. Okay, Aaron Jones, CMC, fair enough swap. Then you get the handcuff situation between AJ Dillon and Chuba, which is quite interesting, right? I think that the interesting thing here as well is that Marquise Brown for me is a big upgrade over Mike Williams. So I don't hate this trade. If CMC turns it up, man, which we're all hoping he can do, if you own CMC, then you win this trade. And I think, especially looking at the receiver position, you get the upgrade. So I don't hate this trade. I don't. But Jones has been very good on the season, right? So just keep that in mind as well. But I don't hate that trade at all. Will, how do you feel about trading away Henderson for Chubb? I don't think I would do it myself, but considering. I would consider this for sure. Chubb's got some very, very favorable matchups coming up, right? I mean, Henderson's been great on the year, but he's got a tougher remaining schedule on the season. So I don't hate that trade, but I like both of these guys. Henderson's been extremely good on the year, extremely consistent. So I don't hate it at all, man. I would look at what player do you have higher conviction in. If you want to lean with Henderson and the Rams offense as a whole, then I don't hate that, man. I don't, but I like Nick Chubb quite a bit, right? I do Henderson for Chubb in a heartbeat, especially with Henderson going out and back in last game. Sure. I mean, the game script didn't really support him, right? But I don't hate this, man. I think if you can buy Nick Chubb, he's definitely a player to consider right now. All right, Sushi Lover, who should you trade for CMC, or should I do Deontay Johnson instead? I'm sorry. Sushi Lover, I think you're going to have to trade a starting running back or a starting wide receiver, especially since Christian McCaffrey still had a decent fantasy day in a tough, bad game script. So it just depends on your roster. Let me know who you've got at the wide receiver and running back position, and then we can dive more into that. Zion, who should I do for Deontay Johnson instead of, or should I do Deontay Johnson instead of Justin Jefferson? Let's see. Let's see. Ooh, that's tough. That's tough. I like both of those guys quite a bit. I really do. Hmm. Let's take a look here. Deontay Johnson coming in at about wide receiver 24 on the season. And let's take a look at Jefferson as well, because Johnson's been extremely consistent. Jefferson coming in at wide receiver 21, so they're relatively similar. I mean, Jefferson's only got 1 week where he's under 10 fantasy points. Deontay's only got 1 week where he did not play, where he was under 10 fantasy points, depending on scoring format. So they're almost neck and neck, right? Minnesota has got the Chargers, Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and then ending against the Rams, which is not good. But I like Jefferson and I like Johnson. I think if he can swing it either way, I'm happy with it, man. I think my gut is telling me Johnson here, or excuse me, Jefferson here. So I like both of them. I think if you end up with either one, it's fair, man. They're relatively similar. Zion, should I trade Sutton for Devontae Parker? I wouldn't necessarily, just because we've seen these lingering injuries to Devontae Parker. We haven't seen them for Sutton. And Sutton is still the wide receiver 1 in that offense, even with Judy and Patrick hanging around. So I would hold on to Sutton over Parker. Michael, Justin Jefferson is better than Deontay. Henderson got hurt. Henderson's going to be in a lot of favorable game scripts. Rams offense is too good to look like last night all year. That's true, too. You could definitely argue for Chubb or Henderson here. Zion, should I trade Robinson and Jamar Chase for Chubb and A.J. Brown? I'd say yes. I'd say yes to that one. I love Jamar Chase. I don't think we need to sell him after yesterday or anything. But A.J. Brown is relatively close to value. Relatively. Not exactly, but when healthy, relatively close. But Chubb is a big upgrade from James Robinson. I love me some James Robinson, man. I got nothing bad to say about him. I loved him in the offseason and preseason. I still believe in him, but with this injury, right, and with some of the matchups that Chubb is going to get down the stretch, I would definitely consider this. You're getting an upgrade at the running back position and just a slight downgrade at receiver. So I think it's worth considering for sure, man. Drew, should we sell Chubb high with Kareem Hunt coming back soon? I don't think so. I'm all in on Chubb right now, man. I really am. Jerry, should I not be worried about Henderson's ankle? Tough to say. He always has some sort of looming injury, it feels like. So I don't think so, Jerry. I don't. Michael, how do you feel about Fournette rest of season? I'm good with Fournette, man. I want pieces of this Buccaneers offense on your guys' roster. So, yeah, I don't have anything bad to say about Leonard Fournette right now. Let's take a look very quickly at Tampa Bay's remaining schedule. They've got Washington, the Giants, Indianapolis, Atlanta, Buffalo, New Orleans, Carolina. Some tough matchups in here, man. Some tough matchups in here for sure. Washington's front seven, much better than their secondary. The Giants have been kind of middle of the pack. No, they've been pretty bad against the run. I take that back. I'm sorry, guys. That's a good matchup. Indianapolis, pretty good against the run. Atlanta, bad against the run. Buffalo, New Orleans, and Carolina is a tough stretch for a running back, though. I'll say that. So the thing is, though, Tampa Bay is so good at getting into the red zone that it doesn't really matter because he always has a chance to score. So I think he'll be fine. I really do. But there are some tough matchups down the stretch there for him as well. Sushi Lover, my wide receivers are Lockett, McLaurin. Okay. Running backs are Chubb, Jacobs, tight end, Kittle. Flex, you've got Elijah, QB, Russell. All right, let's see here. Man, I think you have to look. I mean, who's on your bench there? Because it's like I want you to hold on to Chubb and Jacobs. I only want you to get Christian McCaffrey if you can have like a three-headed beast where you have Chubb and Jacobs involved, right? So maybe you throw Elijah Mitchell into that mix just in case anything changes with the San Francisco 49ers backfield down the stretch. But then really at the receiver position, I think you can afford to lose Lockett or McLaurin. And it just depends if you have a backup tight end outside of Kittle because Kittle and Elijah for CMC, for example, was a fair trade. It's a little bit of a risk because I mean I'm a CMC owner, but I'm still worried about this injury at the same time, just because he deals with so many injuries. But Kittle and Elijah would be a fair trade, but if you don't have another tight end you can use, then it's not worth doing. Jew, I don't know about Chase. It looks like he's getting the same treatment as Mike Williams. Teams focusing on them a lot more. That could be true as well. That could be true as well. Um, and yeah, like I mean, I like that deal that we just talked about, right? I mean, don't you guys agree? Robinson and Jamar Chase for Chubb and AJ Brown. I think a win there is the AJ Brown side of things with Nick Chubb. So I I don't want to overreact to our guy Jamar Chase, right? He's played phenomenal on the season, but I definitely think it's right to assume that defenses are going to be applying more pressure to him overall. So, uh, yeah, I don't hate that take necessarily. Jew says Chubb and AJ Brown side for sure. Yeah, I think that's the winning side of that. I think I agree with you as well. All right, guys, I'm going to take a look here through some matchups next week for week 10 and see if there's anything that jumps out to me, man. Man, I'm still looking at David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert, and it's really messing me up. Especially since I have Ty Johnson and Javonte Williams on my bench, he would have been just a safe 11 points either way, right? All right, let's see here. Big Bog Chungus, what's up, man? So for the league, I don't know why I need to ask for someone to accept it, but they will not. But they will not win. I need help pretty much with my wide receiver core. As I like Jonathan Taylor on my team. Any suggestions? Don't know why I need to ask for someone to accept it, but they will not win. Okay, fair enough. Let me know your full roster, man, and we'll break it down and we'll see what we can get into for what we can get into in terms of a trade or ads or drops, waiver wires, all of that. So let me know your full roster and we'll break it down for you, my guy. Marky Mark, what's up, man? Always good to have you here. Mark, appreciate you coming out today. Always good to have you here, my guy. Jew, news 2 hours ago, DeAndre Hopkins is day to day with a hamstring injury. Yeah, I think he'll continue to be day to day, unfortunately. Um, but it is hard to say. It is hard to say. All right, gosh, I'm projected 63 points next week, but luckily my opponent is only projected 59 points. But I've got David Montgomery on bye, Khalil Herbert and Devontae Booker on bye. But Javonte Williams at the Eagles is going to be a phenomenal start for us next week. For those of you who own Javonte Williams. Let's see. James Robinson's got the Colts. Christian McCaffrey's got Arizona. I got some tough matchups, man. I got to drop the Bengals defense as well. Oh, hopefully get Antonio Brown back, which should be a pretty solid start versus Washington. So we'll see what happens. Mike Gesicki versus Baltimore is a great matchup. So I've definitely got a shot here. Overall. All right, that looks much better. 89 points projected. But some of these projections are messed up with guys like Christian McCaffrey, for some reason, only being projected 7 points, and James Robinson, Tim Patrick. So we'll see what happens. Antonio Brown is still in a walking boot. Sorry, walking boot. I saw somewhere. Yeah, I'm not going to be surprised if he misses week 10. I'm not going to lie. We'll see what happens. All right, Big Bog Chongas, Patty Mahomes, Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, Ronald Seals Jones, or Fearmouth, Leonard Fournette, Daniel Carson, and the Indianapolis Colts defense. All right, so you are hurting a little bit at receiver here. Your running backs are fine. And I want you to have 3 solid running backs, right? I want you to have Aaron Jones, Jonathan Taylor, and Leonard Fournette. And then you need help just looking at Amari Cooper, T. Higgins, and those two tight ends. So the interesting thing here is you can probably move on from Ricky Seals-Jones because Logan Thomas is expected to come back in week 10. It's tough here. It's tough here. So you might be able to pick up a receiver on the waiver wire, maybe a Russell Gage, right? Maybe a Tim Patrick. I mean, those aren't incredible options, but they should be available, right? Maybe an Elijah Moore. I mean, I would look to the waiver wire here. Brandon Ayuk should be starting to turn things up here on the season as well. They're not incredible plays, right? But they're worth taking a look at. In terms of what type of trades you could make, I really don't necessarily see a trade unless it involves Patrick Mahomes, which I don't know that I want to recommend because I think that he could be much better on the rest of the season. So it's tough to say, man. It's tough to say. But if you can swing a Patrick Mahomes for kind of a lower grade quarterback who you're still confident in, like maybe a Kirk Cousins, and then get a wide receiver one as well, that's worth thinking about with the way Patrick Mahomes has played as of late. But outside of that, man, I don't think you can give up Cooper or Higgins. I don't think you can give up Jones, Taylor, or Leonard Fournette. And then really, I mean, there's an opportunity there that you might be able to move on from Ricky Seals-Jones. So let me know where your headspace is at, man. But I think that's just tough, man. There's not a whole lot of depth, and I don't want to see you lose any of those running backs. People got off the Bengals defense train real quick after the Jets game. Yeah. And I unfortunately started them this past week. There just wasn't really any better options. I looked at the Patriots earlier in the week. I didn't make the move soon enough that someone else picked them up. And then I looked at the Panthers, and I just thought there's not a huge difference here. And the Panthers had a much better day. They still only had like 7 fantasy points. But at the same time, yeah, I don't know if we can stream them at all the way they played yesterday anymore. Via Adam Schefter it was. Well, I believe Adam Schefter. And yeah, we'll have to monitor the situation with Antonio Brown pretty closely. At this point, I'm not surprised if he doesn't play. I just really need him to come back healthy, so I'm being optimistic. Marky Mark, tired of these goose eggs, killing my vibe. Yeah. Some bad fantasy performances over the past week. So we'll just have to see how we can turn it around overall, man. We'll have to see. It's tough. Big Boy Chungus. Also, ironically, I had Henry Ruggs. I'm in a 10-man as well. Yeah, I think you're going to have to get smart with the waiver wire. It's probably your best bet there because there's just not a lot to move on from that really benefits you too majorly, right? Unless you can make a swing deal with Patrick Mahomes, it might be worth it, right? But you're going to have to get another quarterback one that you believe in. Like I said, maybe a Kirk Cousins is a good trade target. I'd hate to see you with like a – how has – Ryan Tannehill played as of late? Yeah, I mean, still not very good from a fantasy perspective. But it's maybe you can take a swing on a Joe Burrow. Coming off that awful performance, going on bye week, that doesn't really help you this week, but maybe an option you can look at as well. Jared, do you think Najee can score 27 points in full PPR? Yeah, I do, but the Bears defense is okay against the run. They're not great, but they're not bad. They're like 14. Like they're still in top 15. So we'll have to see. But with that talent, man, absolutely, I do. Yeah. Big Boy Chungus, or no, it's Zion. Any buy lows you like? I like Terry McLaurin right now as a good buy low for sure. He's a guy that I think you can buy and not have to give up a lot of depth. David Montgomery might be another play, especially if you can get it done before tonight, that I like. Javonte Williams or Melvin Gordon, just based on their matchups coming up. I like if the price is right for DeAndre Hopkins and your depth is good enough, you can consider DeAndre Hopkins as well. Outside of that, man, maybe T. Higgins going into the bye week could be a good option there. Christian Kirk, as long as D-Hop is out, but that's not really a play I want to see you guys go too much in on. Emmanuel Sanders might be a good opportunity as well. Mike Williams is someone you could probably buy low. Maybe a CeeDee Lamb even. So those are a couple of names, but Terry McLaurin's definitely the guy that I'm thinking of right now in terms of being able to buy someone low. Uh, he's got some pretty favorable matchups coming up, so I like where he's at for the rest of the season. All right, Jared, do you think Carson plays next week coming off the bye? Yeah, I believe he will. I do. Let's take a look here at what we got going on with Chris Carson, but I think we heard that he is expected to play. Let's see here. Head coach Pete Carroll said Wednesday that Carson plans to resume practicing and return to the field Week 10 against the Packers. So, yeah, I do believe if we're trusting Pete Carroll that he'll be back against the Packers. Excuse me. Big boy Chungus, I have Matt Ryan on the bench. Like that's enough to get you through, but you still want to replace that value of Patrick Mahomes. Now, if you can swing Patrick Mahomes for like a wide receiver 1 and an RB2, it might be worth it, right? Just looking at your roster overall, right? So I would consider that, but I think Patrick Mahomes is going to get better as the season goes on. So I mean, there's a little bit of a gamble. If he doesn't, then you're probably good there. If he does, he might end up a little bit frustrated. Jerry, I'll talk to everyone next time. I got to do some homework. All right, peace out, Jerry. Always good to have you here. Appreciate your continued support to the channel, my guy. Tyreek, Aaron Jones, and Mike Williams. Yeah, I think those are all good buy low opportunities as well. Yeah. Aaron Jones, especially. Yeah. Justin, next week, should I run with Gaskin or Boston Scott? I would have to say Gaskin. And I was scared because every time I've recommended him on the season, he's played poorly. And I wanted to recommend him this past week, and I did. And he had a pretty good game, about 12 fantasy points from the end zone. Baltimore has not been good against opposing running backs. Then the following week, he gets the Jets. Then Carolina, a tough matchup in week 12. But then he gets the Giants and the Jets again. So I actually like where Myles Gaskin is at right now. Yeah. I like Gaskin a lot more, and he's been a lot more consistent on the season. So yeah. Jerry, jump ship on the Chiefs boat. They're old news now. There you go, Jerry. Big boy, so risky, LO, but a bit of a predicament. Yeah, it is risky, but that's like the best thing I can come up with there, man. You know what I'm saying? Because if you trade any of those receivers, then you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot. If you trade those running backs, I mean, the running backs are really the strongest part of your roster overall. So I would hate to see you lose any of those running backs or receivers. And Patrick Mahomes is just a glaring name that offers you trade value. You know what I'm saying? Michael, Hunter Renfro or Brandon Ayuk rest of season? This is an interesting question. I'm going to lean Hunter Renfro here as he's already been pretty much proven as a true PPR value on the whole season. So I would lean Hunter Renfro here, but I do think that Brandon Ayuk can start to turn things around. We've talked about this over the last 2 weeks or so, but I still don't feel 100% confident in Brandon Ayuk at all, man. But is he a good waiver wire pickup? Do we want to monitor a situation? Yes, but Hunter Renfro has already proven on the season he played very well in yesterday's performance. So I'm leaning Hunter Renfro here, especially against poor defenses. Drew, Mike Williams and Sutton for Kelsey. Am I not giving up enough for Kelsey, or is it a good trade to send? So I just want to make sure here. So you're trying to get Kelsey. If that team needs wide receivers bad enough, I think it's a fair enough trade. But Kelsey being Kelsey, I'm not quite sure that you're going to end up seeing that trade just because Kelsey is Kelsey. Sorry, that felt like awful advice. But yeah, I think it's worth trying for sure. It's definitely worth trying, especially if that team is wide receiver needy. And the next, hey, Catch, I finally got a win after 3 straight losses. How did your fantasy week go? I'm still in the midst of it. I won in my 20-man league, which I'm surprisingly quietly moving up the ranks, although it's very, very hard because I don't have a lot of points scored on the year. And to get into the top 6 and into the playoffs, you have to, I mean, it's so close that you have to have a lot of points scored. There's a lot of teams with the same record, right? So I got a surprise win in my 20-man league. Got a bad win, but it was a win nonetheless. In the Catch Fam League, I ended up with a big old L, and my team did not show up at all. Guys like Josh Allen and Jamar Chase and Jarvis Landry just totally screwed me. In my personal league, it's going okay. Okay, let's let's get the exact numbers here, okay? Uh, I have got, so I'm up 100.74 to 66.46, okay? So I'm up by 44.3-ish points, okay? My opponent has Najee Harris and Deontay Johnson. I still have David Montgomery or Khalil Herbert left. Either one, whichever one I end up playing, right? So I think that I'm going to end up winning here, but it's very, very close. So I hope I get this dub. If I do, it'll be a major victory. This is the number one team in the league. So we'll have to see what happens, but I feel pretty confident. I don't want to jinx it though, right? But good to see you, Hidden X. Thanks for coming out to the stream today, man. Always good to have you here in the building. Adam, why aren't they telling us what specific injury AB has? It's throwing me off with trading him or not. They're just saying ankle. Yeah, they're probably just trying to be inconspicuous and confuse opponents and everything. So hopefully it's not serious, man. And that's a good point because, like, I'm in the point in my personal league where he's my best receiver. I'm very, very thin at receiver. I got Tim Patrick and Russell Gage and Antonio Brown. Like, it's ugly. I got a ton of running backs. I got great tight ends. I've got Lamar Jackson. So I'm good outside of the wide receiver position. But if I knew how serious this injury was, maybe I would consider trading him as well. So it's tough to say, and I'm not sure exactly why the Buccaneers are going in that direction, right? Michael, thanks. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, man. Man, if you guys are new to the channel, please consider subscribing down below. You guys know I got to make my public service announcement every couple times every hour. And guys, make sure you hit that like button so we get as many new viewers to the stream as possible, man. Hope you guys are enjoying the stream. Hope you guys, let me know. Do you guys, is this a good move for Monday streams, man, to start a little bit earlier than sign off before the game so we can all enjoy Monday Night Football as opposed to starting towards the second half of the game and then doing fantasy Q&A a little bit later in the night. We're just going to, kind of play around on Mondays and see what works best for everyone. All right. Evan, Mike Williams for Diggs or Johnson? Yeah, I think you should consider this for sure. And I think it's a fair trade either way. If you end up with Deontay Johnson or Stephon Diggs, Johnson's been a little bit more consistent on the season, but I don't want to talk you out of Stephon Diggs either. But yeah, I think that's a good trade for sure. All right, Will, for next week, do I start Stephon Diggs, Deontay Johnson, or CeeDee Lamb? This is interesting. I mean, if you can only start one of these guys, let's take a look here. If I'm not mistaken, let's see. Lamb is going up against Atlanta. Lamb has got a very, very good matchup overall. Let's take a look at Diggs here. All right, let's see. Diggs has got the Jets, which is surprisingly a tough matchup, believe it or not. And then, I'm sorry, Deontay Johnson as well. Okay. Let's see. Deontay Johnson is going up against Chicago. Or no, I'm sorry. Detroit. It's interesting, right? Because these are all bad teams. The Falcons, Detroit, and the Jets, but they're all actually pretty decently ranked against their opponents or against starting wide receivers. I'm sorry. So this is interesting here. But overall, man, I think or Godwin too, but I want to start Godwin along with Tom Brady. Yeah, definitely start Godwin. Definitely start Godwin for sure. Outside of that, I'd be willing to take a chance on CeeDee Lamb or Deontay Johnson as my top two guys there. I really like Diggs, and I really like. Ooh, I like all those guys, man. It's definitely a tough choice, Will. Definitely Godwin for sure. Fantastic matchup versus Washington. But outside of that, man, I think I'd rank these guys. I take it back. Deontay Johnson, okay. CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs. That's where I'd rank them. But I could see Buffalo and Diggs coming back with a vengeance after the way they played this last week. But yeah, Johnson, Lamb, Diggs for me. Definitely start Godwin. Let's see here. Big Boy Chungus. Okay. What do you think about a possible Patty Mahomes and Cooper for Hollywood Brown, Justin Jefferson, and Kirk Cousins. I like this trade. I do. I think this is a perfect use of Patrick Mahomes, and he kind of offboard a boomer bust player in Amari Cooper. He's still been good on the year, don't get me wrong. But wow. I like this trade, actually. End up with Hollywood Brown and Justin Jefferson, top 20 guys, not any different from Amari Cooper, and you get that additional depth, right? And then I think Kirk Cousins can get you through, man. Is he going to offer you the same ceiling as Patrick Mahomes? No, but he can get you through. So I like this trade. I like this trade a lot. Richard Glass, what's up, man? Good to see you. Glad you could make it, man. Great to have you here as always, man. So, yeah. Good to have the Catch fam in the building, man. Hope everyone's doing well tonight, man. Hit that like button, guys. A little bit of a different time, so I'm trying to, monitor how well this stream does overall, and if this is a good move moving forward for Mondays. All right, Evan, huge W this week. Had a 25-point lead with Matt Gay going against Stafford and McNichols with a terrible week of fantasy. I did get the W. Let's go, baby. Good to hear it, Evan. Yeah. I had Matt Gay in this very close matchup, right, overall. And I was so happy that the Rams were not going for it, and they were kicking field goals. Like, I was ecstatic. And yeah, I had Matt Stafford against me, and I still have. I mean, I haven't won this matchup yet. It's going to be very close. But yeah. Love to hear it, man. Love to see it overall. And great that you got the gub, baby. Great that you got the dub. Wow, I cannot talk. All right, Richard Glass. We'll possibly go 4-0 for the third week in a row in my main leagues. Let's go, Richard. Let's go, baby. Love to hear it. Love to see the Catch fam out here catching some beautiful dubs, man. 4-0. That's phenomenal, Richard. Love to hear it. All right, guys. Heading into the second hour. So let me know what you guys need. Let me know what's going on, man. Let me know how everyone's doing. How did week 9 end for you? I know it was tough for a lot of us, man. It was just a strange week of fantasy football, strange week of NFL action as well. So let me know how everyone's feeling headed into week 10. Evan, what wide receiver are we high on this week? I need to stream one. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah, I like Peoples-Jones, but I'm a little bit wary of the fact that he only had 3 targets in that game. So the issue is if he doesn't turn those targets into a touchdown, then probably not going to have a good week, right? So just keep an eye on that as well. But outside of that, man, maybe a Rashad Bateman is a good play. Maybe. Let's see here. Who else can we get into here? Maybe more on the Jets. I don't feel crazy about it, but it's worth thinking about, right? Brandon Ayuk is another guy. I mean, let me know, Evan, who are the top 5 or so receivers on the waiver wire that you could possibly stream, and then maybe we'll go from there. That way I'm not throwing out names that you don't even have a realistic shot at playing, right? All right, Richard, I mentioned this in the catch chat, but I have 0.24 lead, and my opponent has Fearmouth, and I have the Pittsburgh defense. Wow. Yeah, that's close. That is super close. I think you can pull it off, though. If Fearmouth doesn't score, then I think you will definitely pull this off. I'll put it that way. Shaya, what's going on? Hunter Henry or Dan Arnold rest of the season? For me, it's Hunter Henry all day long. He's been incredibly, of course, he's touchdown dependent. Don't get me wrong. But most of these tight ends in that same range are going to be tight end dependent touchdown dependent. And I like Henry more. Him and Mac Jones are like best friends right now. So I would lean Hunter Henry. I mean, he's been about as consistent as you can find at the position on the season. So yeah, I like Hunter Henry quite a bit, right? Let's see here. Let me pull up the stats for you. Yeah, I mean, at least 9 fantasy points in his last so in the last 6 weeks, 5 of those he's had at least 9 fantasy points. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of those he's had at least 1 touchdown. So sure, he's relatively touchdown dependent, but I'm leaning Hunter Henry all day long. I like the chemistry there a little bit more than I like what we're seeing out of Dan Arnold and company, right? All right, let's see here. Evan Harrison, Galladay, Hardman, Chenault, Ayuk, Crowder, Gage, and Agnew. Okay. Ayuk or Gage is where I'm leaning here, man. And it's tough, right? If Mike White starts for the Jets, then I throw Crowder in there as well. Galladay could be a play, but I just don't feel crazy about it, man. For me, it's Ayuk or Gage. Gage looked pretty good. Agnew is an interesting call as well. I started him in my 20-man league, but he really ended up having, not that great of a day, especially after Trevor Lawrence went down. So maybe we monitor that situation as well. But Ayuk or Gage is probably where I would lean if it was my own roster. I mean, I started Gage this past week, but you guys know that I'm very, very thin at the receiver position in that league. But Galladay, had some opportunities against the Raiders. He really didn't do anything with it. Just 2 targets, 2 receptions, 28 receiving yards. So for me, the most upside is definitely between Gage or Ayuk there. Will, is it me or does Hunter Henry look like young Tom Brady? He does kind of look like a young Tom Brady, yeah. Big Bog, let's see here. I sent the trade in, bro, and I feel solid about it. Vikings are off bye week, and I'd rather have 20 for every week pretty much than random 30 bombs and then 7-point bombs. Sure. I would also rather have 3 running backs ones. Yeah. And 2 almost wide receiver ones. Yeah, I like the trade, man. I think it's a good use. I think it's going to help your roster down the stretch as well. Next, how do you feel about Devonta after this game? That's a great question, man. I don't trust him. I really don't. I mean, I was even telling you guys we might be able to drop Devonta Smith, right? Uh, it's just tough, man. I really want him to be a solid wide receiver 1, man, but it's like I just don't know if we can trust him. Did he have a fantastic performance? Yes, he absolutely did. Like he absolutely balled out, man. But it's just hard to say, okay? Because you look at this, right? Week 1, 16 points. Okay. Week 2, 2 points. Week 3, 4 points. Week 4, 15. Week 5, 11. Week 6, 4. Week 7, 8. Week 8, 2. And then week 9, 20. So, I mean, don't get me wrong. His target share really hasn't been that different over the past couple of years. He only had 6 targets in this game. Week 8, he had 3 targets. Week 7, he had 9 targets. Week 6, 4 targets. Week 5, 9 targets. Like, it's just all over the place. He only has 2 scores on the season. This was hands down his best performance of the season against a pretty good Chargers secondary, actually. So he's got Denver, New Orleans, the Giants, and the Jets coming up, which is like, in terms of rankings, 13, 29, 15, 7. It's all over the place. So I don't know if we can trust him, but if he's available in your league, he's worth stashing for now, for sure. Matt, what's good, man? What's going on, Matt? How you doing tonight? Should I trade Eckler or Cordero Patterson for someone like A.J. Brown or DJ Moore? Maybe Godwin. I'm trying to think of a way to get a receiver while not hurting my team. I wouldn't trade Eckler or Cordero for A.J. Brown or DJ Moore. If you can trade one of those 2 guys for A.J. Brown and DJ Moore or A.J. Brown and Godwin, it becomes much more realistic in terms of not hurting your team. But Matt, let me know your full roster, then we'll kind of break it down from there. But overall, I don't think that's a fair 1-for-1 swap. Eckler's been far too good on the season, and we got to face it, man. Cordero Patterson's been far too good on the season to just trade him for. I mean, maybe Patterson for AJ Brown makes the most sense there. The way the way AJ Brown's playing, or maybe Godwin. But I wouldn't even put, if you're going to trade Eckler, I think you should end up with AJ Brown and DJ Moore, if anything. So, yeah, that's where I would be at there, man. Let me know where your headspace at, and yeah, let me know your full roster as well. All right, Cordero isn't even a good running back in terms of rushing. He just gets so many receptions and receiving yards. Yeah, and he gets the value in the end zone as well. So it's tough to say, man. It's tough to say. I really like I'm almost in love with Cordero Patterson at this point in the season. It's like he's been so incredibly fantastic, man. Yeah. All right, guys. Let me know what else is going on, and let me know what you guys need headed into week 10. XXX Lex, yo man, how you doing? What's going on, man? Always good to have you here. Great to see you tonight. Let me know how week 9 went for you and what you're needing heading into week 10. Matt, it's tough, man. I'm not winning games, and I know I need an alpha receiver, but maybe Cordero can be my guy. Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, if you can trade Eckler and you can get AJ Brown and Godwin, that would be pretty phenomenal, man. Evan, if you're trading Eckler, you need to get at least like Adams back. Yeah, you need to get either a top tier guy or like 2 number 1 guys, like at least, you know. XX Lex, drop Alex Collins for Mark Ingram's. I need a running back spot start next week. Yeah, I think that Collins is going to. I mean, here's the thing: is Chris Carson is expected to come back. So yeah, yeah. I think that Alex Collins is a for sure drop, and Mark Ingram is a good enough start for the week. So yeah, let's see. I mean, Ingram. The interesting thing is he's getting like 50 yards from scrimmage. Um, he's just not finding the end zone, right? Is the interesting thing. If he could just find the end zone, which I don't know that he's going to do, I just don't know that he can compete with Kamara. I really don't. All right, Evan. Who over has Montgomery? Get him in the number 1 and wider two. Number 2. Uh, oh, or like whoever has Montgomery, get him in the number 1 or number 2 wide receiver since he is still a buy low. Yeah, I mean even like an Aaron Jones, if you can buy him low with a wide receiver too. Yeah, I mean it's a good point, right? But if you're looking for receivers, Matt, uh, I just hate to see you do like a 1-for-1, like an Austin Eckler for a guy like a DJ Moore, right? I mean, I just hate to see you lose too much value there. Like, it's just tough, man. Matt, should I pick up T.Y. Hilton? Yeah, I think he's worth adding. You know, the Colts have been trending kind of up, and it's just tough. It's tough, man, because he's still a veteran. He's dealing with injuries, right, and all of that. Uh, so it's tough. It's tough. But I think he's worth adding if he can kind of turn it up for the Colts overall. So, yeah, I would take a swing on T.Y. Hilton, but does he solve your problem? I'm not necessarily sure. I hope that he can. I'd love to see him turn back to that, T.Y. Hilton that we're used to, but it's hard to say, man. It's hard to say. All right, guys. So let's see what else is kind of jumping out for me at or in terms of week 10. Let's see here. Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson should be back in a good matchup. I'm kind of excited about those two going up against each other. Jonathan Taylor's got Jacksonville, which is just unfair to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Debo Samuel should be lined up primarily against Jalen Ramsey, although I won't be surprised if Ramsey floats between Debo and Ayuk. So that should be interesting there. Uh, Gosh, the Tampa Bay receivers have got Washington. It's unfair, man. That's just completely unfair. The Jets take on Buffalo, which should be a pretty tough matchup for those Jets running backs we've been excited about as of late. Matt, I can maybe go for like Montgomery and Keenan Allen for one of my RBs. I mean, if you can get if you can, I think that's a fair trade for Cordero Patterson, right? I mean, you replace him with Montgomery, who should be healthy at this point, and then you get that wide receiver 1 that you need as well. So I kind of like that there. But I just don't think you can give up Austin Eckler, right? I think it's too tough, right? I mean, or he's too good. You know what I'm saying? So it is tough there. XX Lex, who should I pick up and start for next week? David Johnson, Gainwell, Ty Johnson, Mark Ingram, or Sony Michelle? For me, it's Ty Johnson. Or Mark Ingram. Okay, I like both those guys. Listen, on the season, I like Ty Johnson the best out of those guys, but he's got the toughest matchup next week going up against the Bills, like we just talked about. So for me, I mean, it might be worth just picking up Ty Johnson just so you have him. I mean, he's had double-digit fantasy points in his last 4 games, so uh, I certainly like him more than David Johnson and Gainwell. Gainwell actually scored. He had 2 carries, and one of them was a touchdown. So it's like Gainwell's been too inconsistent, right? Mark Ingram next week is probably the best overall start there, right? For next week, that is. But then again, I mean, the Saints do play Tennessee, which is actually a pretty tough matchup. So for me, it's between Ingram or Johnson. I like Johnson more in the season, so maybe it's worth going ahead and picking him up, man. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. All right. Let's see here. Let's see here. What else do we have going in week 10 for us? Man, the Bills should get a good bounce back game versus the Jets, I would imagine. Would definitely not imagine that the Jets are able to hold back the Bills like the Jaguars were. Cowboys and Falcons is going to be an interesting game in terms of fantasy, man. It really is. Cowboys aren't looking too good yesterday. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens. Raiders and Chiefs should be relatively interesting too. Browns get the Pats. I mean, we got some interesting matchups, man. This Thursday night football game is going to be. I mean, the both the Baltimore Ravens defense and the Miami Dolphins defense have not been very good, and it's a short week. So, of course, sometimes we see these offenses not necessarily show up uh, on Thursdays, right? But a lot of times we don't see the defenses show up. So I think there I'm leaning with just starting like both of these, all the players on the Ravens and the Dolphins here in Week 10. Otis, what's up, dude? What's going on, Otis? Always good to have you out here, my guy. Let's take a look at Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Closer to a return. Kansas City Chiefs head coach Andy Reid said that running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire is closer to a potential return from IR. We'll have to show how time handles it here in the next couple of weeks. Okay. That doesn't really mean anything, but maybe he is close to return. We'll find out, man. Let's see what else we got here in week 10. Okay. Man, I think Dak Prescott's going to have a good game versus Atlanta, especially being that he played so poorly against Denver. Aaron Jones has got Seattle. I think Aaron Jones could have a big day, man. Christian McCaffrey should be back, right? Did we really see a fully healthy Christian McCaffrey yesterday? I'd like to think so, but at the same time, I don't quite know. So um, it's a tough matchup for CMC, but does that really matter? I don't know. I don't think so. Let's see here. Steelers got the Lions. Should be some matchups we can exploit there. Let's see here. Ooh. Broncos and Eagles should be a fun one as well in terms of fantasy. Hmm. Man, the Broncos running backs I think are going to have monster days. Monster days. Yeah, I mean Chargers and Vikings should be a good day in terms of how we can exploit some fantasy matchups as well. Let's see here. Man, Najee Harris versus Detroit. Monster day, man. So let me know, guys, what you guys need in general, man. We'll probably start to cap off the stream over the next. We'll hang around and see what you guys need, but definitely within the next hour for sure. But yeah, like I said, a little bit of a different uh, time for today. So let me know what you guys thought about that. If this works better than kind of kicking off towards uh, the second half of the game and going into late night. So yeah, yeah. All right, let's see here. Man, week 10. I can't believe it's already here. I truly can't. Truly can't. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and let's see. We basically have covered week 10 as extensively as I think we can, but let's see what else I can't get pulled up for you guys here. Yeah, I'm going to really need a dub in week 10. I'm on a win streak right now, but I got a bad feeling about week 10 because I play a pretty mediocre team, but I've got a lot of players on bye week. So we'll have to see here. Stephen Miller, drop McNichols for Freeman and thinking about dropping more, maybe Patrick. Okay, let's see here. Yes, I think picking up Freeman and dropping McNichols is a good idea. But at the same time, Latavius Murray should be back soon. Does he start to eat into some of those carries? He probably will. But I think that you can swing this. Now, if it's DJ Moore and you're dropping him for Tim Patrick, I don't feel. I mean, I love Tim Patrick, man, but I don't think I'd just flat out drop DJ Moore. I think he's still worth holding on to just due to his volume alone and due to him being the number one guy in that offense. So he's got some good matchups coming up. I wouldn't lose faith in him completely. I would be interested, unless that's Rondell Moore. If it's Rondell Moore, then absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If it's DJ Moore, then no. But let me just specify for me. And if it is DJ Moore, let me know what other players you have on the bench that you can potentially drop, Stephen. But yes, I do think dropping in Nichols for Freeman's a good idea. All right, Evan, we think Jeff Wilson might take Mitchell's spot. I have Mitchell, so I'm hoping not. I mean, yeah, this was unfortunately we didn't really get a read out of what the Niners are going to do with Jeff Mitchell. He didn't even end up playing. So, uh, oh, it's tough to say. It's tough to say, man. I don't think so, but I do think that he can eat into some of these carries, and I do think that he can eat into some of the goal line value and then red zone value. But Mitchell has looked quite good, and I think that the 49ers want to keep using him as much as they can. So uh, it's tough to say, and I wish we had a better read, but we just don't at the moment, unfortunately. All right, let's see here. And Devonta Booker is on bye week, probably going to be his last week as a starter. Let me ask you this, guys, questions. If you guys own Devontae Booker, are you planning on dropping him? Because I might have to. And he's been such a great fill-in for Saquon Barkley, right? I mean, essentially every week except for the Rams, where he's still at 8.9 points on average, 19 points in week 5, week 7, 13 points, week 8, 15 points, and then another double-digit performance yesterday with 13 points. But let's see here. He did suffer a hip injury. Suggested that he's fine after undergoing an X-ray after the game. Let's see here. Booker will have some added recovery time, but the same can be said for Saquon Barkley. Yeah. So Barkley should be back in week 11. Oh, it's just tough, man. If you drop Booker and something happens to Barkley, like you're going to want to go ahead and turn around and get him. But at the same time, it might be time for us to move on from Booker, which is it's a tough call for sure. All right, let's see what else we got in terms of week 10 news that we want to hop into here. Leon Drake had a pretty big day, right? And he now has double-digit fantasy points in his last 3 games, even with Josh Jacobs being in the mix. So maybe keep an eye on Kenyon Drake, who, coming off of the bye week may be available. He may have got dropped headed into week 8 and may have not got picked up, right? So keep an eye on Kenyon Drake as well. Might be some opportunity there for you guys. Van Jefferson was a player that I had a lot of questions about going up against Tennessee secondary. He really didn't do anything. I mean, he had double-digit fantasy points in week 7 and week 8. So Keep an eye on Van Jefferson going up against San Francisco in week 10, but he did definitely disappoint for us in week 9. So keep an eye on him as a potential player to maybe take a swing on, but I don't feel crazy about it. Let's see if we can get a update on Latavius Murray. Let's see, Murray. This is not, yeah, this is not anything recent. Okay, but we're hoping that he can come back for those of you who own him. But for those of you who own Freeman, I guess we're hoping that he does not come back. How did Zach Moss end up finishing? He had an abysmal day. Yeah, Zach Moss since week 6 has been trending quite downward. Right. I mean, after double-digit fantasy points at 1, 2, 3, 4 straight games, he now has single-digit fantasy games in the last 3 weeks and a bye week. So let's see. The Bills get the Jets, the Colts, and New Orleans, and then New England and Tampa Bay and Carolina, and then New England again. It's a pretty tough matchup for our schedule run for running backs. So we might have to start not utilizing him nearly as much. So that's tough. All right, let's see. George Kittle next week, who ended up turning it up against Arizona in week 9, has got the LA Rams. It's going to be interesting for those of you who own George Kittle. Yeah, he might be a must start moving forward the way he played last week. All right, let's see what else we've got here headed into week 10. How did Matt Ryan end up playing? Let's see. 28 points against New Orleans. Yeah, he had a phenomenal day. Second best performance on the season. Now he gets Dallas. I don't like it as much, but I guess we don't know, right? All right, let's see here. Matt, someone dropped Russ. I'm totally snagging. Yeah, he got dropped in my league a couple weeks back, and I put in a waiver for him. He got picked up by one of the better teams in the league, of course. But yeah, I mean, Matt, that's a bless. Yeah, absolutely. Guys, check if Russell Wilson's available. He may have been dropped in your league, and uh, or owners may not even realize that he's supposed to play here in week 10. So keep an eye out for Russell Wilson. He's absolutely worth adding. All right, let's see here. Let's see. I trust him over Tannehill. Absolutely. Yeah, when healthy. Absolutely, man. The ceiling's going to be crazy high, Matt. So, yeah, guys, go check out if Russell Wilson is available within your respective leagues. It's definitely worth taking a look at for sure. All right, let's see here. Who else we got in week 10? I mean, guys, we got to take a look at these Broncos running backs, man. They get Philadelphia in week 10. It's a beautiful matchup. Melvin Gordon's got double digit fantasy points in his last 3 games. Javonte Williams just rushed for 111 rushing yards. That means these two backs rushed for over 190 rushing yards yesterday. I mean, take a look at them, man. And then they get a bye week. Then they get the Chargers, Kansas City, Detroit, Cincinnati, and Las Vegas. I'm telling you, man, these could be 2 players that really help you make a push for the fantasy playoffs, but also have a great matchup here in week 10 as well. All right, let's see here. Evan Harrison, I mean, Mitchell was considered injured and still played most snaps with Hasty taking a few. Yeah, yeah. And I was a little bit concerned about that injury as well, right? But he's played through it, and the Niners just seem to trust him, right? Which I really didn't think we'd see on the season, but apparently we have. So maybe we just continue to roll with him, man. Brian, who wins, Bears or poop? I guess you don't like the Steelers, Brian. I could see the Bears being kind of sneaky tonight, but I think I'm leaning Pittsburgh tonight. Steven, dropping Carter Moss was thinking Jefferson till heard you say watch. Just got McCaffrey back, waiting for Montgomery. Alaire Hunt back from IR. I have 8 teams in Yahoo. Picked up Peterson. Okay. Uh, I think those are all good moves right there, my guy. Yeah. Glad to see you getting McCaffrey, Montgomery, and Alaire back. I mean, that's huge for you, man. That's absolutely huge. All right, let's see. Evan, me and my brother were adjusting our lineups before, and I considered playing Mitchell over Eckler, and I should have done it. Hey, I mean, it's easy to say retrospectively, but like, are you really gonna bench a guy like Austin Eckler? I don't think so. So, I mean, don't beat yourself up too much for it, man. Uh, it's still Austin Eckler, so it's definitely a tough call there. I mean, uh, easy to say these things retrospectively, but I don't think I don't think anyone would have necessarily told you to make that move. So now is Cordero worth someone like DK or even Mike Evans? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's been phenomenal on the season, man. Uh, let's see here. Cordero, Pounder, and Cheese. He's a top 8 guy right now, and I don't think that's going to change with his week 9 numbers. Even though he didn't find the end zone, he still had about 16 fantasy points. He had 126 receiving yards, guys. Like, he only had 10 rushing yards. New Orleans is great against the run, but this is the reason. I mean, he was in the must start video, right? And I told you guys, yes, the Saints are good against the run. They'll be able to hold, Cordero Patterson down, but probably not in the receiving game. And gosh, 126 receiving yards, man. Uh, wow. Do you have a preference between DK and Mike? I lean DK just because he's the true number one guy on that team. Uh, Russ is coming back. That is going to help Lockett's output, but still, the only issue I have with Evans, who I really, really like, who's played actually pretty consistent on the season, is that you've got Godwin, right? You've got Gronk. I mean, you've got AB. You've got Fournette. You've got Gio Bernard. You've got uh, Cameron Brate. Like, you've got so many mouths to feed. You got Scotty Miller, right? I mean, it just goes on and on, right? Uh, yes, Evans has actually played relatively consistent considering the facts, but nonetheless, man, uh, it's tough to say. It's tough to say. I think I'd lean DK though. Let's just take a look at the stats. Why not? Why not? Let's see here. Where is DK coming in on the season? My normal method is not working, so we'll do this a different way. All right, DK Metcalf. Yeah, I mean, he's a top 5 guy. Okay. Let's take a look at Mike Evans, top 8 guy. So they're very close. Evans offering a little bit of a higher ceiling, but DK has been much, much more consistent. So I would lean DK there. Bossman Fat, Monte or Herbert tonight? Not that it matters. I also have Deontay. I'm only down 4.5 points. Hey, we've talked about this back and forth all night. I'd be interested, Bossman Fat, to know where your head is at because I'm in a close matchup and I have Herbert and Montgomery and I can play either one. And I'm really going back and forth with this. I really might. Oh man, it's just so hard. My heart's telling me start Montgomery. My gut's telling me start uh, Khalil Herbert, and I could argue either way why. Right? I think Herbert will still be involved in this game, but if Montgomery is truly healthy, he might see a bulk of the carries. Right? So it's just tough. It's tough. I want to say Montgomery, but I don't know how truly confident I am there. It's really, really tough, man. I'd be interested to see what where your headspace is at. Uh, let's see. YT Prodigy, what's going on, man? You think trading Stephon Diggs and Aaron Jones for Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Swift is better long term? It's a relatively even swap here. It's a relatively even swap. Let's take a look. Why not? All right. So Diggs versus Jefferson. All right. So Justin Jefferson on the season, if I'm remembering correctly, well, he's number 21, depending on scoring format, right around that area. And then let's take a look at Diggs as well. Is number 22. Yeah, I was thinking they were really close. So they're very, very close. Then, if I'm not mistaken, Jones and Swift are like right next to each other. Swift is 4, believe it or not. Jones is 5. So let's take a look. Jones down the stretch has got some very tough matchups. Okay. He doesn't have the most favorable schedule, and AJ Dillon is eating into those carries. Swift doesn't have phenomenal matchups either. So maybe I'd lean Jones there because of his respective offense. Now let's take a look between Diggs and Jefferson. Okay. Jefferson's got the Chargers, Green Bay, San Francisco, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Chicago, and LA. Those are pretty good matchups, really, outside of maybe LA. So let's take a look at Stephon Diggs. got the Jets, Indy, New Orleans, New England, Tampa Bay, Carolina, New England. Pretty tough matchups, but not the worst matchups. So let's see here. I'd be interested to see where your headspace is at, man. But I think I'd lean Justin Jefferson and DeAndre Swift. Just looking at the matchups coming up, but it's really tough. It really is. Bossman Fat, should I trade Amari Cooper, and is there a player you think has more value in it, but is being overlooked? Dude, if you could swap him for Terry McLaurin, I think it'd be worth it. I think Terry McLaurin has got some very, very favorable matchups coming up, and he should start to turn things around and be a little bit more consistent. He's got Tampa Bay, a bad matchup at Carolina, but then Seattle, Vegas, another tough matchup at Dallas, but then Philadelphia, and then Dallas again. And when Dallas and Washington play, it's like all game or everything we expect is out the window. So that might be an option for you. Let's take a look at Amari Cooper down the stretch here. Atlanta, Kansas City, Las Vegas, New Orleans, Washington, Giants, Washington. I mean, Cooper's got very, very favorable matchups as well. So I would probably just hold on to Cooper if I'm being quite honest with you, man. He's got some great matchups on the way here. So still a top 20 wide receiver. If you can get someone at a better ranking, then maybe you consider this. But he's got good matchups coming up, and he should play well in a lot of those divisional games as well. Bossman Fan, in my personal opinion, I would probably start Herbert because I feel like they could sit Monty if the run game doesn't get going, but it's so close. I know. So I'm thinking it's like they get behind and they need to go and start using like some of their packages where he's the pass catching guy. And in general, I think he'll see more pass catching availability. So it's just tough, man. But then I can see, even if that happens, Montgomery being the guy in the end zone or red zone. So it's just tough, man. We could go back and forth all day on that one. But I don't disagree with you necessarily. Ronnie, Montgomery, or Claypool? I think the safer play here is Claypool, right? Listen, it's just such a bad matchup between Chicago. Chicago's like 28th in the league against opposing receivers. So the safer play for me is Claypool. That's where I would lean. Yeah, I would lean Claypool for sure. But I mean, I love David Montgomery. Don't get me wrong, but it's kind of a weird situation where he's just coming back from injury earlier than expected. And Pittsburgh is very, very good against the run. They're like either fifth or sixth in the league. I can't remember off the top of my head here, but still very good nonetheless. So for me, I'm leaning Chase Claypool. But it is, I could see where this is a tough call, getting that surprise news of Montgomery coming back. Steven, thanks for saying Jefferson worth keeping was going to drop for Patrick. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Not a problem, man. Always just trying to give you guys the best fantasy advice as possible. No worries whatsoever there, my guy. All right. Sushi Lover, I have Elijah, Kittle, and Ayuk on my team start all for week 10. Yeah. I mean, it's a tough matchup versus the Rams. But I could see that game being a game where the Niners really want to show up. So it depends on who else you have, of course, that you could play instead of them. But Ayuk is maybe the biggest question mark. But Kittle and Elijah, yeah, I think you start for sure. Ronnie Daniel, I know it's tough. I need Claypool to get me 30, but I'm not going to hold my breath. Yeah. I don't think Montgomery will get you 30 necessarily. I think his best ceiling, like if we really see a good game out of him, is like 15 points, and he ended up finding the end zone. So it's really tough there. But Claypool is a better start, has the better matchup overall. That Chicago secondary is just god awful, like absolutely awful. So that's where I would lean, especially if you need 30 points to win. Don't get me wrong, man. Crazier things have happened. So hopefully it works out in your favor. But I don't think Montgomery will get that done, just with how good the Steelers' defense has been against the run in general. So it's a tough call to some degree, but I would lean Claypool for sure. Let's look at Chase Claypool over the last couple of weeks while we're here. Gosh, he's been so inconsistent. 8 points a bye week, 2 points, 21 points, an injured game, 14 points, 8 points, 8 points. So coming in at like wide receiver 45 on the year. But the matchup's there. So hopefully Big Ben can give him the ball and he can do something with it, man. Ronnie, thanks, man. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, my guy. So no problem at all. All right, guys. Let's see what we got going here. Probably start to wrap up tonight's stream over the next couple minutes. So make sure if you guys have any questions, you let me know what you guys need. And let's see here. Really nothing else. I'll keep looking to see if there's anything I want to go over headed into week 10. But we've gotten pretty high into details on the week, man. Debo Samuel, tough matchup, banged up, going up against the Rams in week 10. Oh, man, he's just been so good on the season. All right, guys, make sure you get in any last questions as we'll probably cap things off by 6:30 or so. So make sure you guys let me know what you need as well. All right, let's see here. Anything? I'm just looking through everyone's matchups headed into week 10. If there's anything that really stands out to me, although, like I said, we've gone over pretty much everything. How did Jerry Jeudy? What was his final stat line? Let's see here. 6 receptions, 8 targets, 69 receiving yards. Not bad. Not bad. Definitely like to see him get in the end zone versus Philly in week 10. All right, let's see here. Ooh, Naheem Hines, man, I'm telling you, if he's available in your league, take a swing on him, man. Got Jacksonville. They've been awful against the run. I mean, I know this. We're going to wipe out this matchup with the Bills out of existence, but take a look at our boy Naheem Hines if he's available. Playboy Richie, should I trade Hollywood Brown and Mark Andrews for Cooper Kupp and Josh Jacobs? He has too many RBs. I don't have any good ones. Yeah, yes, you should. You're getting a wide receiver one, and you're getting a running back you can use right away. So if you're hurting at running back, yes, of course, Playboy Richie. I think this is a great trade. As long as if it doesn't hurt your tight end position too much, then that's good as well. That only benefits you. But I love Hollywood Brown. Love what he's done on the season. I love what Mark Andrews has done on the season as well. But nonetheless, man, Cooper Kupp and Josh Jacobs is a filthy combo. Yeah, I really, really like that trade for you, man. Especially if you're hurting at the running back position. I got full faith in Josh Jacobs, man. So yeah, I don't mind that at all. Man. I really don't. I mean, Mark Andrews is still like tight end 2 on the year, but that really is stemming from like that huge performance in week 5. And a couple other good performances sprinkled in. But overall, man, I also have Diggs, Debo, and Pittman for wide receiver. I have Pitts at tight end. Okay, Pitts is a fair enough swap, but you can start him on a weekly basis, right? So I don't hate that at all. I don't hate that at all. Yeah, I would definitely do that trade. I mean, you're getting Cooper Kupp, and then the interesting thing there is once you have Cooper Kupp, you can end up trading one of those other receivers, right? Maybe you lean off of Debo, who's been injured, but you can still get great value for him because he's still been a top 5 receiver, even with the down day yesterday. So I would hold on to Diggs, Pittman, and Cup for sure. And you can even hold on to Debo or trade Diggs. But yeah, you got a lot of moves you can make there. And I think that's definitely a good move, man. I'm surprised that owner wants to give up Cooper Cup, man. Oz, what's going on, man? Who should I drop? Jarvis Landry and Zach Moss for? 2 fantasy busts I'm tired of sitting on. No one in my league is trading anyone for anything. Stephon Diggs is officially a flex play at best. It just depends, Oz, who's available at the receiver and running back position. I don't want to give you names that aren't available, so just let me know, man. But yeah, I think that you can end up moving on from those guys. Zach Moss, especially, has been trending downward overall, so I don't have a problem with that at all. All right, let's see here. All right. Nice. You're the best. Thank you very much. Absolutely. That's what we're here for, Playboy Richie. Not a problem at all. All right, guys. Make sure you get in your final fantasy questions as we're going to start to wind things down here. Oz, don't forget to like the vid, guys. Hey, I appreciate that, Oz. Truly do. Yeah, like I said, Oz, man, let me know who's available in your leagues, and I'll are in that specific league, and I'll let you know who I think is worth picking up. I mean, I did drop the waiver wire video for week 10 earlier in the day. So if you guys missed that, make sure you guys go check that out. Drop a like on it, man, if you guys are kind enough to do so. But also, it'll get you some really in depth information on the week 10 waiver wire. I went pretty nitty gritty this time and really tried to break it down. So that might help you guys out who are looking to drop some players as well. And then we should have Steven dropping his week 10 must start defenses as well. So make sure you guys keep a lookout for that. And then tomorrow we'll have our must start kickers out, as well as Steven and I hopping on tomorrow, 8 p.m. sharp for you guys. So don't forget there. Let's see here. Will James Conner, Henderson, CD next week? Yeah. I mean, I think you can start all those guys. If I had to, I mean, James Conner for sure. We're not benching him. The way he's been playing and the consistency level he's been at, right? We're not benching him by any means. Henderson, a down day versus Tennessee, but the game script didn't support it. And Tennessee's been surprisingly good against the run. You get San Francisco, it's a good matchup, Monday Night Football. CeeDee Lamb, once again, has got a pretty decent matchup. So I like all those guys, man. I mean, CeeDee Lamb going to be facing Atlanta. It's a good matchup, man. I think you can start all those guys. If I had to choose one, though, I mean, I'm leaning James Conner, man. I'm sorry. I'm just completely sold on James Conner at this point in the season. Stephen Judy was another one of my pickups. Jefferson was making me nervous being third LA Rams wide receiver. Yeah. I love the addition of Judy here. I love it, man. I love it. I think he's only going to continue to progress as the season goes on. Oz, Crowder, Galladay, Myers, Moore, so Rondell Moore, and Bateman. Man, if Mike White can come back healthy, I like Crowder a lot here. They had a very good chemistry, and even if Zach Wilson comes back, they had a great chemistry as well. So I don't want to say I'm sold on Galladay at all. Man, Myers is an interesting play though. Myers might be someone that you want to consider, although the New England Patriots players have been so incredibly inconsistent. Man, he still hasn't scored a touchdown on the year. He's coming off of a 1-point game. He's got Cleveland, Atlanta, and Tennessee coming up. So it's a pretty good stretch looking at those secondaries. Now those teams play against opposing wide receivers. So that's something to consider as well. Also, Tim Patrick and Deeples. Donovan Peoples-Jones. Yeah. I like those two additions a lot, man. I really like Tim Patrick, man. I'm so surprised at this point in the season that Tim Patrick is even available for some of you guys. So let's see. So you're dropping Landry and Moss. I would go Tim Patrick and Peoples-Jones, but we just want to be hesitant on Donovan Peoples-Jones. Like, he only had 3 targets, only had 2 receptions. Even the last big game he only had like 4 targets on that day. So I don't know how much I like him more than Jarvis Landry, right? It's hard to say. So Tim Patrick for sure. He's a touchdown machine, man. Like, that's where he's getting all of his value from. Bateman's an interesting play too. I would probably rule out Myers and Rondell Moore and Galladay. I just cannot trust Kenny Galladay for you guys. But looking at it, man, Crowder, dependent on quarterback. Bateman, just due to volume and praying he gets in the end zone, but then definitely Patrick and Peoples-Jones. So hope that was helpful, man. That is tough though. That's definitely tough. But you've got options. You've got options for sure if you want to move on from Moss and Landry. Bryant, feels good to be 9-0. I'm sure, Bryant. I'm sure that it does. Yeah, of course. Shout out to you, man. Love to see it though. Love to see it. Thanks 100, of course, Oz. That's what we're here for, my guy. You know we got you, man. JJ, what's going on? Oh, I'm sorry, John P. I missed your question. Alex Collins or Rashad Penny since Carson is still out? Carson should be back in week 10, guys. If you guys don't have that update, he is expected to play in week 10. So if he does not for any reason, then Collins. But from everything we've read and looked into, Chris Carson is expected to be back. So I would roll I would stay away from those running backs. Yeah. But yeah, we have got the news that both Russell Wilson and Chris Carson should be back for week 10, that is. JJ, running backs are Zeke, Josh Jacobs, Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders. Wide receivers are Adams, Justin Jefferson, DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk. Got offered to trade Josh Jacobs and DJ Moore to get Eckler and Renfro. Do I accept? Yes. Yes, you accept that. I love Josh Jacobs. I got nothing bad to say about him, but you've got Zeke and Elijah Mitchell to lean on. And then you get Eckler, who's fantastic, right? You lose DJ Moore, but you replace him with Renfro. I love this trade. I would take that trade in a heartbeat. John P., I just saw an update that Carson isn't ready like an hour ago. All right, let me take a double look at this because we looked into it earlier in the stream. And, okay. Yes, this is more recent than when we looked at it earlier. Okay. Carson has yet to be designated for a return from IR. Coach Pete Carroll indicated that last week that the running back was targeting a potential return to practice in advance of this Sunday's game against the Packers, but that has yet to happen, which clouds Carson's Week 10 status. If he's unable to return in action this week, Alex Collins or Rashad Penny would continue to handle his backfield duties. Wow, this is literally updated at 5:37. We started the stream at 4, and we talked about this before 5:37. So thank you, John P. That is a great update, and I appreciate you bringing that to our attention. And that circumstance, so they're facing Green Bay. They're kind of a middle of the pack team versus opposing running backs. I would roll with Alex Collins all day long. He has been the far better fill-in. They tried it out with Penny, and it just didn't seem to happen. Penny has had more time to get back into the gear of things. Don't get me wrong, but don't get me wrong. Collins has had some good stat lines, right? Week 4, 14 points. Week 5, 8 points. Week 6, 16 points. Those aren't bad by any means. And then versus New Orleans and Jacksonville, which are just awful game scripts overall, under 5 fantasy points. So we don't like that. But I would still roll with Collins, man. I feel a lot more confident with that recommendation than I do Rashad Penny. But thank you so much for bringing that to our attention. That's really, really a good update for us, man. All right, Oz, your James Conner advice was on point. Made me happy this week. Hey, I'm happy, man. I'm anytime I make the right calls for you guys, I'm ecstatic. I care about the calls I make for you guys more than the calls I make for myself and my own fantasy team. So definitely happy. And yeah, I've got full faith in James Conner, man. I really do. I know there are times where he was playing inconsistent, but he's scored an immense amount of touchdowns over the last couple of weeks. So I would keep rolling with it, man. But happy to hear that it worked out for you, my guy. Barrett, is Deontay Johnson or Khalil Herbert more likely to get 23 more points than Big Ben? I would say Deontay Johnson here. I would say Deontay Johnson, but it's tough. It's tough, man. Part of me wants to like Khalil Herbert in this game, but listen, Deontay Johnson's going up against the 28th ranked team against opposing wide receivers. Khalil Herbert is going up against what is Pittsburgh? Either number 5 or number 6 off the top of my head against opposing running backs. So it's tough. It's tough. But I want to like Herbert, but for me, Barrett, all day long, it's Deontay Johnson. It's Deontay Johnson for sure. Yeah. And the secondary is so bad for Chicago that we got to lean on Deontay Johnson here. Absolutely. All right, let's see here. All right, guys, a great fantasy Q&A tonight, man. Jason Kenobi coming through in the chat. What's up, Jason? I got James Conner, baby. Hey, I love to hear it, Jason. I'm assuming that meant good things for your fantasy output overall, and definitely stoked for you if so. But what's up, Jason? Good to have you here towards the end of the stream, and happy for you, my guy. Absolutely happy for you, man. Yeah, James Conner. I mean, I told you guys, don't lose faith in this guy. Please don't. Please don't, man. All right, let's see. Yeah, man. Let me know what else you guys got going on. I mean, how did Week 9? How did Week 9 finish out for you, man? How does Week 10 look for you, man? We'll probably end the stream by 7 p.m. This is, a little bit of a different time stamp for you guys. Started at 4, ending at 7. That way, we can all just relax tonight and watch some Monday Night Football and, all of that, right? Instead of starting at like 9:30 tonight, heading into like midnight. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. And if not, we can always change it next week. But I just wanted to see uh, what you guys thought of doing a little bit of an earlier stream overall. All right, let's see. I benched him. At least I have him for the next couple of weeks. Oh, all right, Jason. Well, hey, there we go. I mean, as long as he got the dub, does it matter? I guess not. 40 points on your bench is tough, but oh well. And I mean, some leagues he scored less than 40, but overall. All right, let's see what else we got here. Man, great update by John P on our guy Chris Carson. Definitely very timely there as well. So thank you for that. But man, is Mike White expected to play versus Buffalo? Is likely to make a. He is likely to play. Likely to make a third straight start. I think that helps you guys looking for for Jameson Crowder on the waivers. Does it hurt more? Because Moore had some really good chemistry with their backup, right? Or backup to the backup. And Zach Wilson is expected to start practicing Wednesday as well. So I don't know if that's relevant for, right? I don't know if Corey Davis, I'm sorry, I forgot Corey Davis' name for a second, was expected to play with that same hip injury, but a lot of developments there for the Jets. I mean, it's a tough matchup regardless. I don't really know why I'm going on a tangent about the Jets. I was just interested if Mike White was going to play. But then they get Miami and Houston and Philadelphia. Keep an eye on those Jets, man. Hey, they might be worth a flex play. And hey, you never know what you're going to get out of Mike White, right? So, all right, guys, let me know as we start to wind down the stream, man. Your biggest disappointment of the week and your biggest surprise of the week. And of course, any questions pertaining to tonight's game or week 10 in general, please let me know as well. Man, Robbie Anderson. I'm just going through random players at this point in the stream. Gosh, what an awful season for Robbie Anderson. I really, really liked him in the offseason, preseason. And gosh, he's just been so disappointing, man. So incredibly disappointing. All right, let's go see what else we can't get into here, man. All players. Tom Brady coming back after the bye week. Tom Brady coming back after the bye week has QB1 and he gets Washington. It's just, he might have his best game of the season, man. It's just not even fair. I'm facing Tom Brady, so I'm pretty scared about that. I'm not going to lie. Week 10, I'll go to give you guys in my primary league. Let's see here. Okay, I'm going up against. Well, it's kind of hard to call because he's going to put Tom Brady in, and he's got Brandon Cooks on bye week. On his bench, he's got Landry, Robbie Anderson, George Kittle, Zach Moss, Latavius Murray. He's got Hunter Henry in at the moment. I actually feel like this team could end up beating me. So let's just say Tom Brady, Kenyon Drake, Boston Scott, Tyreek Hill, Hunter Henry, Van Jefferson, the Panthers defense, Zach Moss, George Kittle, Robbie Anderson, Jarvis Landry, Latavius Murray. I mean, I actually think that team, just how weird this year has been, could actually end up beating me. Let's see here. I've got Lamar Jackson, CMC, Javonte Williams, AJ Brown, Tim Patrick, Mike Gesicki, James Robinson, Matt Gay. I got to pick up a defense because the Bengals are on bye week. Dalton Schultz, Devontae Booker on bye, David Montgomery, Khalil Herbert on bye, Ty Johnson, and Russell Gage. So I think I got a pretty good shot here headed into week 10, but it is hard to say. It is hard to say. I'm going to go check out what defenses I can take a look at headed into week 10. I've got, listen to this, guys. The Titans, over the last 5 weeks, 13 points, 4 points versus Buffalo, so fair. 17 points, 12 points, 16 points. So in the last 5 weeks, they have at least 12 points in 4 of their games. And now they get the Saints, who are probably going to be deploying Trevor Simeon. Am I crazy for picking up the Tennessee Titans defense? I mean, that's going to be my number one waiver priority. I don't have a defense, and the Bengals just gave me -2 points. So, guys, take a look at Tennessee's defense, right? They're worth picking up at this point in time. Let's see who else I have to pick from. I've got the Broncos, who I'm not in love with at all. It's 7 points versus Dallas, though. Don't get me wrong. And they've got Philadelphia. It's not the worst start. The Browns, coming off of a giant day, have got New England. They might be worth a shot as well. But man, Tennessee Titans, guys, we got to take a look at the Titans right now. They're making waves right now. Outside of that, I'm just going to look through who's available in this league that I could potentially pick up. Ooh, it's not pretty. Donovan Peoples-Jones. I might have to take a swing on him with how thin I am at receiver. He's got New England, Detroit, Baltimore. Going to get better or worse before it gets better. Those first 2 matchups. Man, I'm really torn on Elijah Moore. I know I had him in the top 10 waivers of the week, but if Mike White or Zach Wilson plays, I don't know if we see that same chemistry, but nonetheless, he's had at least 9 points in the last 3 games. So I think we still take a look at Elijah Moore for sure. Let's see here. Oz, do you think Big Ben, the Steelers defense, and the Watt, my league has defensive players, can score 35 fantasy points tonight? Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Big Ben on a good day is going to get, I mean, floor, what, 15 points, ceiling, 20 points? If he has a good day, the Chicago secondary is not good. So, because that's all they need. If they hit their averages, I will win. Yeah, I think that all those, yeah, I think for sure, Oz, all those guys will hit their averages. So I think you're good there. Yeah. I don't know in terms of defensive players, like how much TJ Watt will get for you. But if you're thinking he's going to end up getting his overall average, then I think you're good there. And I think the Steelers defense is going to have a pretty solid night. So I think you're definitely good there for sure. All right, guys, I think I'm taking a swing on Brandon Ayuk in my personal league. But here's the question, right? Do I drop Devontae Booker? Or do I guess I'm going to wait and see if Khalil Herbert becomes nothing tonight, or what happens with the Bears running backs, because I've got Herbert and Montgomery. Christian, Russell Wilson is most likely back this week, so where would you rank DK Metcalf that has still been doing good at title? Let's see. He's been a top 5 guy on the season, man. So I'm going to leave him right in the top 5. Yeah, I mean, I was huge on DK Metcalf in the offseason and preseason, and I still feel fine about him overall. So, yeah, I'm just going to say top 5 with Russ coming back, right? So, yeah, I love where he's at, man. Oz, like the video. Let's go. Hey, appreciate that, Oz. I appreciate that support, my guy. Yeah, guys, hit that like button. If you're new to the channel, consider subscribing down below. And make sure you got that notification bell on so you guys never miss an upload or stream. Christian, drop Booker because he's also injured. Yeah. He's going in the bye week. Saquon should be back. Or are the Giants going in the bye week? Why am I thinking that they are? That's the Bears. Saquon should be back regardless. And he does have the hip injury, although I've heard it's not that serious. I'm just like, oh, but what if Saquon gets hurt again, man? And like, Booker's been so good in his absence. He's really, really helped out my team. They do have the bye week. They do have the bye week. But I think you're right. I think you're right here. I think Booker, it might be time for us to move on from. Madden Tang, Travis Kelce and Damian Harris for CMC and Pitts. Yeah, I would take that trade. I would lean the CMC Kyle Pitts side. Yeah. Damian Harris is banged up. I know CMC has been. There's still the fear that he will be, but he's still CMC. And yeah, it hurts to lose Travis Kelce, but at least you get Kyle Pitts. So if you want to upgrade at running back and that helps your roster more, then yeah, of course. Yeah. If it doesn't, then you hold on to Travis Kelce. Christian, I traded away Thielen and Mike Evans for DK and D-Hop 3 weeks ago. What do you think about it now? I mean, Thielen's been extremely consistent. Mike Evans has surprisingly played consistent, so I'm not going to lie that that hurts to some degree, but I love DK Metcalf, man. I got nothing bad to say about him. So I actually like this trade to some degree. And then looking at D Hop, man, uh, he can still bounce back. So I wouldn't lose all faith there. So I don't hate the trade, man. But Evans has been relatively consistent, actually, and Thielen has been as well. So just being honest with you, man. But at the same time, yeah, I love DK. And if D Hop can bounce back, then it's going to be a good trade in the end, man. All right, let's see. Guys, make sure you get in your final questions as we'll start to officially wind down the stream heading into the third hour here. But man, week 9 is come and it's almost gone. It's wild. It's wild, man. Already into week 10. How did Deontay Harris play versus Atlanta? Solid 8 points. Okay. How did KJ Osborne end up playing versus Baltimore? Nothing. Wow. He's so inconsistent. Jeez. Wow. All right, guys, we'll go ahead and cap off the stream here at the 6:50 mark. So appreciate everyone coming out to the stream today, man. I know a little bit of a different timestamp, but I think that this stream went pretty well. And I kind of like the idea of us just being able to sit back on Monday night and be able to watch the game, man. And maybe for me at least, right? But I do enjoy watching the games with you guys, doing the Monday night football hangout. So we'll kind of monitor things heading into next week. But I hope this stream was helpful for you guys, man, of course. And I hope that starting at 4 p.m. didn't throw you guys off too much for those of you guys who are used to us starting a little bit later and going into like 11 or midnight on Monday night. So, but nonetheless, man, I do appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate this channel, man. Just love our subscriber base, man. The Catch fam, you guys are just absolutely incredible. So I really do appreciate your guys' support. And yeah, I hope week 9 went well for everyone. And I hope everyone enjoys the Monday night football game tonight, man. And let's get ready for week 10, okay? We'll have our must-start defenses out tonight. Must-start kickers more than likely dropping in the morning, as well as all of our respective must-starts throughout the week. So make sure you guys stay posted for all of those uploads and or streams. Tomorrow night we'll be kicking off at 8 p.m. for our general week 10 fantasy Q&A. So make sure you guys stay tuned. Steven will be joining me tomorrow night. Steven will be here Wednesday night at 8 p.m. as well. So make sure you guys stay tuned for that. Thursday night, we'll have another fantasy Q&A stream, of course, and then Friday night as well, more fantasy Q&A. So make sure you guys have that notification bell on. That way you never miss any uploads or streams. So we got plenty of resources for you guys to get ready headed into week 10 here. So make sure you guys stay tuned. It's getting to that point, man. We really got to try and piece together these tight dubs, man. I really want to help you guys get as many victories at this point in the season as possible. So make sure you guys stay tuned. I really look forward to helping you guys each and every week and each and every day. This fantasy season has been a blast with you guys. So truly, truly appreciate everyone coming out today, man. Make sure you guys hit that like button on your way out. If you guys watch this retrospectively, feel free to drop any comments, questions, concern in the comment section down below, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. If you guys are new to the channel, I do kindly ask that you subscribe, become part of the Catch fam today. And like I said, get that notification bell on as well so you don't miss any uploads or streams. Got nothing else to say, but thank you guys so much for watching and or listening. And remember, you saw it here on the Catch, and peace.